Part 77. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Rusiahua. Chapter 785. Li Hongfang's car was in the hotel parking lot, and Lu Chang'an asked her not to drive and just walk there, because this stretch of road was usually congested and difficult to walk. Even convenient and flexible means of transportation such as electric cars or bicycles are sometimes difficult to get through. In addition to daily public vehicles, there are also a large number of tourist attractions and students from universities and middle schools, making this section of the road blocked. Like many areas developed and planned in the 1980s and 1990s, the urban design capacity in this area of Hexi is far below the current development status. Li Hongfang led the way, and Lu Chang'an noticed that there was a heart-shaped pendant hanging precariously on the end of the waistband of her shorts. Brother Lu, when the 9 provinces Fenglai sword sect was not in decline, was it as rich as any other country? Li Hongfang asked expectantly. Although she has not officially joined the Kyushu Fenglai sword sect, since Lu Chang'an has spoken, he will definitely not refuse her application after she transforms into a beautiful girl again. Unless she gets uglier, she may be rejected. Therefore, Li Hongfang naturally developed a sense of belonging to the Zhu Fengeljian disciples. Even though the organization is now in decline, looking back on the past can still bring a sense of pride. The largest economy in the world at that time was the Song dynasty, and the second largest economy in the world was the 9 provinces Fenglai sword section. Lu Chang'an thought for a while. The original Zhu Fenglai sword sect raised many women, and raising women requires a lot of money. So I made some money. Li Hongfang was surprised and a little unimaginable. Li Hongfang was deeply impressed by the wealthy ancient merchants Fan Li and Shen Wanzan. In Fan Li's time, it was impossible to say how wealthy the country was. Fan Li's fame was mainly related to 11 Shi. Shen Wanzan was truly extremely wealthy, but later he became a little arrogant and did not carefully figure out his intentions, and was eventually killed. When Li Hongfang went to Zhoushuang, she also visited Shen Wanzan's former residence and tomb. Shen Wanzan's tomb was underwater. After Li Hongfang investigated it, he gave up some ideas. Shen Wanzan's wealth was comparable to that of the Ming dynasty, but the economic situation of the Ming dynasty was still very different from that of the Song dynasty. It is really unimaginable that the Song dynasty was the target of an extremely wealthy country. When Li Hongfang was collecting Song paintings, he came into contact with some Western historians. They believed that the Song dynasty at that time was indeed the richest country in the world, with GDP accounting for 20 to 30% of the world's GDP, which was similar to that of the ugly kingdom today. At the same time, they also believed that the per capita GDP in Europe during the same period was only about 1/10 lower than that of the Song dynasty. The total amount could not be compared, so let's compare the per capita GDP. It is a fine tradition in Western history circles to add bricks and tiles to one's own history. They say it is only 1/10 lower. Who gives people a greater say? The key is that there is a group of people. Where's the cute-looking dog? The Zhu Fenglai sword sect at that time, to make an analogy, in terms of wealth alone, the Song dynasty at that time was equivalent to the ugly kingdom, so which country is the Zhu Fenglai sword sect equivalent to now? It's so scary. Actually, it's just a converted wealth figure. It doesn't mean that the Zhu Fenglai sword sect has mastered economic activities on a national scale. The most that the Zhu Fenglai sword sect has is gold, silver, and many overseas fleets. Lu Chang'an thought. After thinking about it, I recalled something. A sunken ship was discovered in the waters of Yangjiang in the 1980s, which was the starting point of my country's underwater archaeology. 4,000 to 5,000 cultural relics of various types were salvaged. The archaeological community believes that they are all very rare or even unique cultural relics and treasures. The whole ship has such there are estimated to be nearly 100,000 cultural relics, and the previous auction prices for these cultural relics of the same level were hundreds of thousands of dollars each. This was the price more than 10 years ago. I went to take a look at this sunken ship. It was just one of the ships in the Kyushu Fenglai Jianmen Sea Kingdom fleet that carried out ordinary commercial activities. Merchant ships like this departed from the seaport controlled by Jianmen, one after another. Routes all over the South China Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the Persian Gulf. After Lu Chang'an finished speaking, he glanced at the high and low skyscrapers in Hedong. Except now, the status of merchants in the Song dynasty was probably the highest in all dynasties, and they were relatively less discriminated against. Ancient sages have long realized that prosperous commerce is a good thing, but there is no need to give businessmen an excessively high social status. Oh my God, Zhu Fenglai sword sect was once so wealthy. Li Hongfang had an unacceptable contrast. It seems that the current Zhu Fenglai sword sect has indeed declined. When she went to investigate Lu Chang'an, she got a handful of information from that community. The old man learned from his mouth that Lu Chang'an lived a plain and simple life as an ordinary person. Now Lu Chang'an does not seem to have a huge amount of wealth. If he wants to revive the Zhu Fenglai sword sect, he still needs to raise a lot of funds. He probably has to take on the heavy responsibility of raising funds for Jianmen. After all, Lu Chang'an is like this. The other big guys in the sect may also be content with being ordinary and are not as rich as Li Hongfang. The Guangdong Maritime Silk Road Museum was built based on this sunken ship. You can go and take a look and look carefully. The pattern labels on many cultural relics displayed there will remind you of the Kyushu Fenglai Sword Gate. After the museum is completed, Lu Chang'an has never been there, so you can go and have a look when you have time. The idea of going to see it is not strong, because there are too many similar situations, nothing unusual. After all, Lu Chang'an is not very interested in the exhibits unearthed from the tomb of Marquis Haihun displayed in the provincial museum next door. I must go and see. Li Hongfang clenched her fists. Tomb robbing was once her profession, but it was also a hobby. This hobby and interest are more or less related to her enthusiasm for learning history and culture. Why wouldn't you want to go see the cultural exhibitions related to the ancient sects? Then you may not have time to see it recently. Let's open the rice noodle shop first. Of course, I won't delay business. Actually, if you are interested in the history of Zhu Fenglai sword sect, you can ask me directly. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said. Okay, in the past, Li Hongfang didn't dare to chat with Lu Chang'an when nothing happened. Even if he was interested in Zhu Fenglai sword sect, he only looked for information privately and did not dare to ask him directly. Lu Chang'an nodded. The reason why he was so proactive was because of Li Hongfang's overly developed brain-filling ability. She could make up the content of 60 episodes of a TV series with just a few things. She especially liked to stigmatize some historical figures. For example, Lu He and Shang Guandandan gave birth to a daughter or something. Later she becomes interested in the Kyushu Fenglai sword section. Who knows how many things she will arrange? Especially there are many women in Zhu Fenglai Jianmen. There are more women, so there are more gossips and rumors, such as secret histories of romance, erotic stories, and boudoir stories. The rumors he told about the 9 provinces Fengling swordsmen were of course the most authoritative. If Li Hongfang was still making up rumors, he would expel her from the sword gate, rub her into ashes, put them in a jar and bury her under the corner. Thinking of this, Lu Chang'an looked at Li Hongfang and smiled gently. Li Hongfang also smiled. Lu Chang'an's smile was always so elegant and easygoing. It's no wonder that Miss Su couldn't resist his charm. After walking for a while, I came to a grey-white 3-story independent factory building. According to the information introduced by Li Hongfang, this was once a textile factory and later transformed into a school. The most recent change of use was to a warehouse, which was more than 10 years ago. It was something that happened before, and it has been abandoned ever since. Due to unclear property rights and repeated changes in the competent authorities, it was only recently that all relationships were established and it can be transferred and used normally. I've asked around. The old people in this area call this textile school, but it's not a school for training textile technicians, nor is it a school for children of textile factories. It's just because it was originally a factory building of a textile factory. Li Hongfang lowered his voice. Listen, it is said that there have been supernatural incidents whether it was used as a textile factory or when it was used as a school. Talk about it. Lu Chang'an stood in the shade of the tree and looked up at the gray-white wall, which was covered with gray-black mold spots. The surface had been eroded by rain for many years. In some places, the outer layer was broken and torn off, revealing the hard blue wall inside. The body still looks extremely solid and has the most important characteristics of architecture of that era: solidity and durability. The country was very poor at that time. It would be an unforgivable crime to turn such an important enterprise building as a textile factory into a shoddy project and waste some of the manpower and material resources that the country and people had worked so hard to accumulate. Of course, times have changed, everyone's minds have changed, and the economic situation is also changing all the time. Why not turn a textile factory into a rice noodle shop? The earliest textile factories were basically staffed by female workers, they were all women's places, and it was normal for them to be haunted. Li Hongfang summed it up politically incorrectly. It is said that the closure of the textile factory was related to the hauntings. For a period of time, they were on duty at night. Among the workers, you can always see a woman weaving with her hair. The cloth she weaves is all made of her hair. It seems like she has endless hair. The workers call her the Weaver Lady. Lu Chang'an couldn't help but look up at the sky. He couldn't see Vega during the day. The air in Juncha was average. There were only a few days every year when he could see the stars at night. A few didn't mean none. So last year, Lu Chang'an left Bailong Center number 1 in 452. There is nothing wrong with jumping off the roof of a building and lying on the construction site to watch the Milky Way. Once a worker named Xiao Ming was on duty at night and saw Ji Niang's hair stuck in the loom. He quickly turned off the power and saved Ji Niang. Xiao Ming did not expect Ji Niang to be a beautiful woman he had never seen before. She was wearing a 65-style khaki green military uniform, with beautiful braids, and a worker's hat with a shining red star on her head. Lu Chang'an frowned and looked at Li Hongfang suspiciously. Li Hongfang was not affected by Lu Chang'an's staring and continued to narrate emotionally. Ji Niang was a little shy and said that Xiao Ming was the first man to see her true face, so she decided to repay him. She asked Xiao Ming to go home. Don't tell anyone and she'll go find him the next night. Xiao Ming was a little scared. After all, it was said that Ji Niang was a ghost, but after seeing Ji Niang's pure and beautiful appearance and big shining eyes, he agreed. The red stars and big eyes are both shining. Your adjectives are too limited. Lu Chang'an felt that Li Hongfang's imagination was suitable for writing novels, but his literary background was obviously insufficient. Li Hongfang didn't take it seriously and continued. The next night, Xiao Ming thought about the stories of fairies, carps, vixens, and snails repaying their kindness, and waited excitedly. At 12 o'clock in the evening, the door of his house opened. You guessed it? What's wrong? Did you ask about ghost stories, or do you want me to cooperate with you in crosstalk? Lu Chang'an definitely didn't guess. He already regretted coming to investigate with her. You will definitely not guess. A cow rushed into Xiao Ming's house and killed Xiao Ming with its horns. Because he was the cowherd and Hainang was the weaver girl. The cowherd realized that Hainang would cheat on Xiao Ming after she met him, so he came over to kill him. Xiao Ming was killed. Li Hongfang sighed. Later, Xiao Ming turned into a resentful ghost and has been wandering here. Every Chinese Valentine's Day, people can often see him staring at the sky with resentment on his face. Any couple who sees Xiao Ming will separate. Li Hongfang, is this a supernatural incident that you heard about, or did you make it up? Lu Chang'an reached out and grabbed Li Hongfang's neck, but did not break it for the time being. Brother Lu, I really heard about it. 90% of it is like this. After analyzing it, I restored the real situation a little bit. Li Hongfang looked forward with a stiff neck and stumbled. Where do you begin to reconstruct the story? It starts with Xiao Ming's appearance. In other words, the real supernatural incident was that there was a weaver ghost in the textile factory, and she made up the rest. Lu Chang'an let go of Li Hongfang's neck and said coldly, if you don't find anything supernatural here today, you just prepare to get your heart-shaped ass kicked. Li Hongfang shrank her neck and pressed her butt involuntarily. She didn't wear a combat uniform today, but there was a big hollow heart shape on the back of her underwear. I didn't know if that would work. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 786. Lu Chang'an thought for a while, and the fact that he could finish listening to her supernatural story demonstrated his extraordinary endurance and generosity. When she says that the cowherd is a cow, you can put 2 fingers into her mouth, pick her throat upward, lift her up high, and stop her from continuing to talk nonsense. It's just that the great thing about Li Hongfang is that she is equipped with technological equipment like Batman and Iron Man, but her physical fitness is very average. If this is done to her, her throat will really become crippled, and she will never have the chance to formulate a story from now on. Thinking this, Lu Chang'an made a slight movement and looked back at Li Hongfang. Li Hongfang was covering her mouth and quickly walked forward a few steps without saying a word. It's okay not to tell other supernatural stories. Lu Chang'an walked around the factory quietly. The view here is wide and it is close to the river. After all, it is a textile factory, which has certain needs for water resources and water quality. Poor water quality will affect the quality of the cloth. Having such a large river with rich water resources is also the basis for the sustainable development of industry in Juncha and several nearby cities. Abandoned for many years, the traces of the textile factory are not visible. It was later transformed into a school. Some of the slogans printed on the walls and fences are modeled but barely recognizable. The final purpose is a warehouse, so there is still a usable cement and soil path leading to the outside. In fact, as long as a wall is removed and the front is repaired, it can be connected to the commercial street. There is an abandoned stacker and stacking area behind the warehouse, which can be transformed into a parking lot. The entire factory can easily be turned into a small commercial mall. If he can successfully obtain this factory building, it can be said that Li Hongfang is indeed a talent and has a certain amount of luck. Go up and have a look. After going around in a circle, Lu Chang'an walked up the Z-shaped stairs at the back of the factory building that led directly to the roof. There is almost no paint on the escalator, and it is covered with fluffy rust. It seems that if you stretch your hand upwards a few times, you can pull off the fine rust chips in your hand. Brother Lu, I'll go in front. If the stairs are broken, I'll fall down first. Li Hongfang volunteered and rushed up. Lu Chang'an nodded. Li Hongfang still had advantages. Li Hongfang stomped up the stairs, as if to ensure safety, stepping on every step, and then went straight to the roof. Lu Chang'an followed a little slower, and then found Li Hongfang standing at the top of the stairs, confronting the 4 people on the roof. Li Hongfang regretted not wearing a combat uniform. The 4 people on the other side were actually holding guns. Given the security situation in the mainland, ordinary people may never face such a scene in their lifetime, but Li Hongfang often walks in dark areas. She always feels that she has been too comfortable recently and never thought that she would be pointed at a gun again. Ever since she came into contact with people like Sunangxiu and Lu Chang'an, Li Hongfang had long scorned ordinary criminals and didn't take them seriously. But a gun is still a gun, and without the protection of a combat uniform, she is just an ordinary flesh and blood body. I would really rather see ghosts. Lu Chang'an frowned. Ghosts can only do evil, but man-made disasters are endless. The 4 people on the opposite side were clearly engaged in a transaction that was deeply hated by the Chinese people, with packages of white powder and bundles of pink RMB. The four people looked at each other. This was originally an excellent trading location. The surrounding water and land transportation conditions were convenient for escaping in unexpected situations, but it was relatively remote and hidden, and ordinary people would hardly go to this place. Even if you point a gun at the opponent, it is impossible to kill the opponent with one shot here, the movement is too great. They tied up the man and the woman and took them to the factory below to play with and then kill them. There was no need to panic. The four of them were all veterans. After looking at the look in each other's eyes, they understood and the corners of their mouths curled up slightly. The average lifespan of Chinese people is 72.5 years old, while the average lifespan of anti-narcotics policemen is 41 years. Lu Chang'an looked at the four people expressionlessly. What you are trading is the lives of anti-narcotics policemen, your customers. Those who are taking it one bite at a time are also the lives of the anti-narcotics police officers. I hope you know why you lost your life today. I'm going to kill you later, boy, are you impatient? A thin man with yellow hair on his head and a strong accent sneered. I have no ancestors, I am an immortal. Lu Chang'an used a homophone that deducted points. Brother Lu, I'll go first, Li Hongfang summoned up the courage to say. Okay, Lu Chang'an nodded. Li Hongfang was stunned for a moment. She just said it casually. Now, of course, the 36 strategy is the best strategy. Although the opponent has a gun, Li Hongfang has encountered such a situation. In fact, in a real gunfight, unless it is too unlucky, otherwise, if you run away under such circumstances, the possibility of being hit is very small. There is a 90% chance that the other party will not shoot at all, but will scatter in all directions after she and Lu Chang'an escape. Won't chase her. But before she could turn around, Lu Chang'an beside her had disappeared. Li Hongfang's eyes hadn't caught Lu Chang'an's figure yet, but he heard several screams and quickly turned around, only to see that the four people had been killed by Lu Chang'an. Put down. Li Hongfang hurriedly ran over and found that three of them were dead, except for Huang Mao, who was the first to curse. Huang Mao's lower body was paralyzed on the ground, and his upper body was twitching with his back against the wall. His expression was distorted, making him look like his head had been boiled in water, his eyes were swollen, and his face was swollen. Are you a human or a ghost? Huang Mao lived in Junxia for a period of time and knew about the ghost legends here, so he chose this place to trade. I am death. Lu Chang'an thought of the position he gave himself last year, although he felt that it was more appropriate to use the identity of Kyushu Wind and Thunder Swordsman now, which was quite chivalrous. Huang Mao's teeth were chattering against the ground and he wanted to say something else. Lu Chang'an was not interested in listening to what he said and casually hit him on the head. Lu Chang'an was very gentle and smashed his head into colorful sauce without violence. He just turned his brain into a brain-draining mess through the force of concussion. Go buy 4 big clay pots for making hot sauce. Lu Chang'an turned around and said to Li Hongfang, who was stunned. Li Hongfang's legs weakened and she stumbled downstairs. At noon, Li Hongfang drove to the riverside with Lu Chang'an and 4 large clay pots. The quality of this kind of clay pot is very good, but if it falls into the water after being thrown high, it is likely to be broken immediately. Lu Chang'an said to the pale Li Hongfang, we can throw it against the water at high speed, so that after exhaustion, it will roll a few times and sink smoothly into the water. The mud and paper sealing it will melt in the next few days, and the clay pot will become a cyclic system that mainly supports decomposers, just like a whale falling. Good, good, very environmentally friendly, Li Hongfang said with great difficulty, always finding a reason to praise brother Lu. Do you think I'm cruel? Lu Chang'an threw the clay pots into the river and poured the powder into the river. No. No. They deserve it. Li Hongfang felt that she was not a serious person, but she never touched those things. I used to know an anti-narcotics policeman. When he was on a mission in disguise, he was recognized by his mother-in-law and daughter who were passing by. The daughter called him Dad. 3 days later, his father-in-law, mother-in-law and daughter died of gas poisoning at home. There are more anti-narcotics policemen tortured to death by drug dealers, and the methods are worse than what I just did to them, Lu Chang'an said calmly. When watching many crime-related movies, even the most perverted serial killers are amateurs and stragglers compared to drug dealers. The most inhumane people in the world will always be drug dealers and politicians of capitalist countries. I won't deliberately hunt down these people, but if I meet them, none of them will survive. Li Hongfang trembled slightly, looking at Lu Chang'an with a dull expression, but her heart felt hot. It turned out that Miss Su liked Lu Chang'an not just because of his handsome face and charming figure. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 787. If an ordinary citizen disappears, it is very likely to become a major case. In today's dense surveillance environment, we rely on the Baidu system on mobile phones, clues on social media, and login locations and times on various apps to locate the location of the missing person and locate them. Not a difficult task. But like the people Lu Chang'an crushed, from the moment they were contaminated by those things, their lives became like sewer creatures, like cockroaches, like street rats, and no one paid attention to their life and death. Even family members are often used to their disappearance and have no worries about not being able to contact them, if they can be contacted at all. As for their colleagues and accomplices, they will not bother to call the police because of their disappearance. This is almost tantamount to surrendering, not surrendering. Crush, this word is often used in arrogant speeches, crushing you like an ant, which means to smash the other person into dust, destroy the other person's life, pride, and self-esteem, etc. Lu Chang'an didn't go so far. Crushing it was just crushing, it was just a direct physical effect. Presumably they would rather be crushed by physics than have their pride and self-esteem destroyed. After all, people are like this, and Lu Chang'an has a deep understanding of this. Even when dealing with evil people, I still take care of their mood. Lu Chang'an felt a little emotional, and turned to Li Hongfang and said, "Do you think I am very considerate of others, kind and gentle?" "That's necessary." Li Hongfang spoke with a northeastern accent. Although she didn't know why Lu Chang'an said such a sentence carelessly, how could he be wrong? Lu Chang'an was satisfied with Li Hongfang, who was honest and dared to express himself. They were lucky today. They were able to meet Brother Lu and personally arranged it for them. But why didn't they even have anyone to show off? Li Hongfang asked after her mood gradually calmed down. She recalled that she had really dared to sneak into the community to touch the coffin, and was caught by Lu Chang'an. If Lu Chang'an hadn't been merciful at that time, I would probably be in a hot sauce jar now, forming an ecosystem of decomposers, and maybe he would have named it something as poignant and beautiful as Youth Shattered. He thinks so mainly because when he first heard her name, he said, "Storms and beasts attack the city, and the grass grows luxuriantly," so after killing her, he thought of a name like Youth Shattered. Possible. She was a little frightened by Lu Chang'an just now, but Li Hongfang also came to her senses. Lu Chang'an had let him go at the beginning, and of course he would not crush her casually now. At most, he would ask her to remove the armor on her butt, or just cut a heart shape out of the back of her pants and kick her. Li Hongfang was still willing and able to accept such punishment. The first time was a little aggrieved, but if there was a second time, it would probably just be a pout. Have you watched too many Hong Kong crime movies? Do you think that in reality, in this kind of transaction, both parties would bring a group of people, ready to take advantage of others and start filming at any time? Lu Chang'an smiled. Of course it's necessary to do this kind of thing. The more secretive and low-key the better. Sometimes the meeting just passes by and it ends, and the meeting is not even arranged. Yes, like our acupuncture, it lasts for a long time, So we need to look for the wind. Li Hongfang understood. Everyone has a fixed mindset. In our county, if a group of guys who don't look like serious people gather together, there is a high chance that they will be reported. Lu Chang'an pointed to the residential building in the distance. Now if you have a people with criminal records, people with certain bad records, you will know how diligently the neighborhood committee and sub-district offices come to visit and monitor. If you investigate, you will find that many cases are discovered through reports, and the people are very discerning. Although it is impossible to report every crime and all illegal gatherings will be discovered, criminals do not need to attract attention. The fewer people and lower profile the better, except for fools. Li Hongfang couldn't help but admire him. Even if Lu Chang'an became a criminal, he would probably be one of the best. After all, crime also requires knowing yourself and the enemy, which is anti-detection awareness. He would not be like some thieves who have not yet had time to implement their criminal plans. Reported and arrested. Lu Chang'an watched the riverside for a while, and remembered that he jumped into the Xiangjiang River last year and caught a crucian carp, and he was a little eager to try it. Get the phone for me. Lu Chang'an handed the phone to Li Hongfang. Before Li Hongfang knew what he was going to do, he saw Lu Chang'an take off his clothes and pants and jump directly into the river. He couldn't help but be stunned. As expected of brother Lu, he really did whatever he wanted. He could do whatever he wanted. He didn't know what does he want to do. It turns out that men's butts are so beautiful. Li Hongfang blushed a little, thinking how sexy it would be if brother Lu wore his own underwear with hollow heart shapes. Li Hongfang looked up and saw him floating in the river, looking leisurely and contented. Occasionally waving his arms and marching hard, it reminded people of the heroic spirit of hitting the water in the middle of the stream. After a while, he swam into the river and sank. When he came up again, he was not far from Li Hongfang on the shore. Turn around. Lu Chang'an was a young man who was shy about showing his front to others. His back was turned to Li Hongfang just now when he was diving. After all, Li Hongfang is also a mature woman. When she sees him naked, she will inevitably have wild thoughts, be attracted to her, and have disrespectful fantasies about him. Li Hongfang turned around quickly. Lu Chang'an landed on the shore, shook his body, used high-speed vibration to remove the remaining water on his body, and then put on his clothes and shoes. When he walked to Li Hongfang found that he was holding an eel in his hand. In the past, there were anchovies and Chinese sturgeons in this river. Although we were a little poor at that time, as long as there was no serious natural disaster, we would always have enough to eat. Lu Chang'an looked at the eel in his hand and said, now not to mention the shad and the Chinese sturgeon, there is even the Hunan and Chinese dace. In the past, Xianghua dace was found in the Xiangjiang River, Zhejiang River, Yuanjiang River, Lishui River, and Dongting Lake, but now it is only found in the Yuanjiang River. Xianghua dace is delicious, and its meat is second only to mandarin fish in terms of deliciousness. Lu Chang'an doesn't mind the extinction of species. Global species extinction is common, not to mention the life and death of a few fish. It's just that it's difficult to eat it anytime, anywhere, and it's hard to avoid being a little concerned about it. White eel is also quite delicious. When Li Hongfang was working and inspecting in southern Guangdong, he could often eat white eel, which is common in Cantonese cuisine. In fact, everything is common on the dining table in southern Guangdong, such as Taiwan frog, hujianren, and clay pot rice. The main ingredient is xiaozizi and the like. Can you cook where you live? Lu Chang'an asked casually. Yes. Li Hongfang boiled water to make instant noodles this morning. Lu Chang'an grabbed the big eel and prepared to fire at the place where Li Hongfang lived at noon, mainly because she lived close to here and Lu Chang'an wanted to go to the factory to have a look after eating. He only looked at the outside just now, but before he could take a closer look, he came across some meat sauce ingredients. It was necessary to wait and take a closer look. Lu Chang'an still noticed something wrong while he was in a hurry. Is this the place you said you can cook? Lu Chang'an raised the plastic bag in his hand, which contained river water and eels. It could restore its original living environment as much as possible and relieve its tension, so that it could be eaten before being slaughtered. It will be easier and more enjoyable to preserve the most delicious state. Li Hongfang still lives with the girl who designed it at Hunan University. The first version of Along the River during the Qingming Festival is still here and was rolled up to make the hem of a skirt as the girl's graduation project. Lu Chang'an was also inspired by this, but he was more casual and directly used the first edition of Along the River during the Qingming Festival as fabric, and now it is also placed in the form of a skirt in a nuance wardrobe. Li Hongfang's kitchen is extremely simple. The kitchen knife is a slicing knife selected from the supermarket, with words like Zhang Xiaoquan and Shiba Zaizuo written on it. I bought a kitchen knife, but there is no whetstone, which means that the kitchen knife is mostly blunt, which does not affect Lu Chang'an's use, but it will inevitably not feel silky and smooth when cutting vegetables. The cutting board is the cheapest plastic board, and it is covered with scratches. I guess when you chop bones or something, the whole cutting board will bounce when you cut it with a knife. There is only one cooking pot, and it is actually a cast iron pot. However, if you have no experience and maintenance habits when using cast iron pots, it will greatly affect the taste and be very unhygienic. That's all. There is only one package of seasonings with less than 1/10 of the sea salt left and a small pot of genetically modified soybean oil. It feels like this kitchen is just for cooking a bowl of instant noodles and adding some shredded vegetables. Actually, it was like this when I came here. Mainly the female student used the kitchen. You know, as a student, this kind of living conditions are often not very demanding, and so Li Hongfang quickly dismissed the blame. Of course, Li Hongfang could have chosen 10 times better accommodation conditions, but she chose to live here carefully in order to hide her identity. Lu Chang'an looked at the white eel in his hand. You can eat it in Junche's Cantonese restaurants, but it's not easy to catch one in the Xiangjiang River. This kind of squid is born in the sea and grows up in rivers. The one caught by Lu Chang'an even swam back through Dongting Lake and then to the Xiangjiang River in the Junche section. It was not easy. It was a little more than 30 or 40 years ago. It's quite rare now. Lu Chang'an didn't want it to die in Li Hongfang's simple kitchen, so he asked Li Hongfang to use all the things at home to cook instant noodles, and went to Lushan Mountain to cook. Except for the scale of Zhehuntang, Qin Yinan's kitchen was suitable for ordinary people top configuration. Lu Chang'an walked to the door, and the door opened. A girl wearing a red down jacket with a dyed bob hair came in. She frowned slightly in surprise, then gradually smiled and looked at Lu Chang'an carefully. Girls sharing a house often have a system that prohibits bringing in items of the opposite sex. After all, girls attach great importance to personal privacy, and often like to walk around in private spaces wearing only a little bit of clothing. For example, Zhu Huntang once secretly swore that he would wait for her when it swells up. She will walk around the floor in a showy manner without any clothes on. Girls who have experienced sharing houses for many years will find that when this system is formulated, everyone will agree, but those who have boyfriends will definitely bring their boyfriends back to have sex when their roommates are away. Overnight stays are also possible. The days of love in a shared house may seem helpless and sad when gradually faced with real pressure and marital problems, but for students, it is a kind of pink life. Li Hongfang stood behind Lu Chang'an. Seeing that he was bumped into by his roommate, Li Hongfang quickly explained, "Mu Qing, he is my friend and a student of your school. Today we caught a big white eel. We originally wanted to use the kitchen to cook a meal, but we didn't. Seasonings and stuff, he's getting ready to leave." It's okay hearing the apologetic meaning in Li Hongfang's words. Mu Qing's already supple eyebrows raised a gentle look. In fact, it is forbidden to bring members of the opposite sex into shared houses mainly to protect privacy. If roommates go out at noon, and they haven't done anything embarrassing in there and it is discovered, it is not a big deal. Of course, this is the reason why you tolerate the other person without caring about it. We rarely cook by ourselves, and the kitchen is a bit crude, Mu Qing explained sheepishly, her eyes still focused on Lu Chang'an's face. I know you, you are Lu Chang'an, and I am your senior sister. Hello, Lu Chang'an nodded. The Yuan Xiaodong you beat up is a fellow countryman of mine. He is quite annoying, Mu Qing continued. With that said, Mu Qing quickly walked into the living room, took off her down jacket, revealing her curvy figure. The upper body was a white sweater, slightly fluffy and bloated, and the lower part was a simple plaid skirt. Who is Yuan Xiaodong? Lu Chang'an thought carefully. Since it was the person who was beaten by him, it was not difficult to remember him. After all, he didn't beat people often. Oh, I remembered, he was from the basketball team. That guy came to the women's volleyball training place and said that my girlfriend looked like a flower. Ah. He's not from the basketball team, he's from the student union of your school of biology. Mu Qing showed a somewhat uncertain look, but maybe I remembered it wrong, and I'm not familiar with him either. Li Hongfang couldn't help but want to laugh when she heard the ambiguity in Mu Qing's tone. There was no doubt that Mu Qing was very fond of Lu Chang'an when she saw him, even though Lu Chang'an said that he had a girlfriend. Oh, goodbye. Lu Chang'an left politely. Mu Qing walked to the door and took a look, then turned back to look at Li Hongfang and said with a smile, his girlfriend is not you, right? In fact, Mu Qing also knew that Lu Chang'an's girlfriend was not Li Hongfang. She knew that Yuan Xiaodong was beaten. As a fellow villager, she would naturally participate in some related gossip and learn more about it. As a student who is about to graduate, I always regret to find that when I am about to leave, the school seems to become more interesting, and there seem to be more handsome guys and beauties, but I have no chance. His girlfriend is the beauty of Hunan University, and she is of a level that I have never seen before, and probably never will in the future. Li Hongfang had a good impression of Mu Qing, so she kindly reminded her not to think too much. You have a good relationship? Mu Qing continued to ask. We are family friends. Li Hongfang thought for a while and said, but now I am just living under him. You are looking for a place to open a store recently, who is the boss? Mu Qing asked with interest. Li Hongfang did not deny it. By the way, we have taken a fancy to a factory building for renovation. In addition to opening a store, there is still a lot of space left. Aren't you planning to set up a studio? Do you want to leave some space for you? Ah, it depends on the rent. My family doesn't give me much money. Let's try it on a small scale first, Mu Qing asked expectantly. Anyway, you don't want a shop facing the street. When the time comes, I will leave a place for you on the second or third floor, and I won't charge you more in rent, Li Hongfang said generously. After all, she was the one who bought the factory, but the first floor will be rented to Zhou Shuling, just opened a rice noodle shop, but she could still make the decision by leaving a place for Mu Qing. The most important thing is that Li Hongfang knew very well that when she rented here, it would actually bring danger to Mu Qing. If she was unlucky enough, she might accidentally get involved. Now that she has been separated from that dangerous past, it is appropriate to give Mu Qing some compensation. Li Hongfang chatted with Mu Qing for a while and then went to the hotel where she used to work. Lu Chang'an's request for her to join the Zhuzhu Fenglai Jianmen reminded her that as a woman, she should live a refined life. She can no longer live in a shared house. If the living environment is too adequate, then there is not much thought to make one's life more refined. The simple assembly wardrobe placed by the landlord makes people not interested in putting too many expensive and elegant clothes, and there is no interest in filling the dressing mirror on the wall with rich women. Dedicated makeup and skincare brand. Shared shoe cabinets are certainly not suitable for decorating high-quality high-heeled shoes that are essential for femininity. After the factory renovation is completed, go to the hotel to book a long private room. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 788. Li Hongfang changed her clothes and carried a black business case to the hotel where she used to work. It was close to the house she and Mu Qing shared and the factory they planned to buy. The hotel's catering and room service were both good. Many people who sign up for long-term private rooms in hotels, when choosing a hotel, will try to stay for a few days to understand all aspects of the hotel. After all, they have to stay for a long time and the cost is far more than renting a room in the same city with the same conditions and environment. Li Hongfang had worked here for a while, so there was no need for a trial stay. She entered the hotel and came to the front desk, smiling slightly. "Sister Li, why are you free today?" the front desk greeted Li Hongfang. Li Hongfang has not been working here for a long time, but except for the supervisor who always gives her trouble, her popularity is still very good. This is often the case. If you have a supervisor who is not very popular, it will be easier for the people below you to build good relationships with him. "I want to stay in the hotel for a while and sign a private room for a year," Li Hongfang said to the front desk. "Count on the business you brought in, but I have to negotiate terms with manager Zhao." "Really, Sister Li, are you so rich now?" The front desk was overjoyed. Although he was a little surprised that a former housekeeping employee could stay in the hotel's long private room, he still called the manager immediately. That kind of service staff first looks at each other with disdain and despises the other party's financial strength, and then exaggerates how expensive the service they provide is that the other party must not be able to afford it. Then the customer slaps him in the face, and the waiter and manager apologize together. This kind of scene happens. Probability is no longer common in novels. When staying in a hotel's long-term private rooms, guests often make some requests for hotel services and other aspects. Some guests even ask for customized room designs. As long as the money is enough, the hotel will usually do its best to satisfy them. It is not up to the front desk to decide how to discuss these details. A superior with authority needs to negotiate with the guest. After putting down the phone, the front desk poured lemonade for Li Hongfang and asked curiously, "Sister Li, has it been sent?" "I found a job and had to change my place to live," Li Hongfang said with a smile. "That's great." The receptionist looked at Li Hongfang's figure and felt a little envious. In fact, it is common for female employees in five-star hotels to climb up to the top and become phoenixes overnight. High consumption places are frequented by successful people. Some girls yearn for jobs here, and they may not want to find a rich husband. But the reality is that even though successful people frequently hang out here, compared to the beautiful girls here, they are more scarce social resources. Most of the girls end up with higher and higher horizons, higher and higher ambitions, and the older they get. It's just a bigger reality. In the dating market, female practitioners in high-end hotels, female salespeople in high-end shopping malls, first-class flight attendants, etc. are all similar situations. When ordinary men see the other person's work resume, it is best to think carefully about whether the two parties are suitable. Manager Zhao rushed over quickly and accompanied Li Hongfang to look at the guest rooms. Finally, Li Hongfang chose the hotel's luxurious Riverview Executive Suite. The long-term private room price is only 50% of the listed price. For catering, gym and parking lot, etc., Li Hongfang didn't pay too much attention to the use of supporting facilities. Her only request was to let her former supervisor in the housekeeping department be responsible for her current housekeeping service. Being in charge of guest room service does not mean asking the supervisor to clean the guest rooms. Although such conditions are a bit strange, Manager Zhao has no reason not to agree. The following staff are hired to meet the various needs of guests. Li Hongfang worked neatly and cheerfully. After signing the contract, she went to the suite to open the black box she carried with her, and carefully scanned the walls, ceilings, chandeliers, TVs, vents, curtains, sockets, decorative paintings, bathrooms, cloakrooms, etc. where to install the camera. Nothing was found. Li Hongfang was relieved, so he installed the cameras he carried in several locations secretly and checked them carefully. Unless a professional like himself brought professional inspection equipment, it would be difficult to find them. After doing all this, Li Hongfang looked at the cloakroom in the suite and was quite satisfied. The cloakroom with such a large full-length mirror was one of the reasons why Li Hongfang chose this room type. Men often don't notice that when many women book a guest room, they can see their whole body and take selfies in the large mirror, which makes them look taller and have slender legs. This is a very good selection criterion. A cloakroom like this makes people want to seriously enrich it. Li Hongfang was going to buy some clothes. As soon as she walked out of the door, she saw her former supervisor Wang Fang walking over. Wang Fang's face was a little embarrassed, with some jealousy and resentment hidden. When Li Hongfang was working here, Wang Fang always suspected that Li Hongfang was seducing manager Zhao, always wearing small shoes for Li Hongfang, saying that Li Hongfang was coquettish, saying that Li Hongfang went to manager Zhao's office without wearing underwear on purpose, and even spit in Li Hongfang's cup. Later, Lu Chang'an came to Li Hongfang and took Li Hongfang to see Sunangzia for treatment. Before Li Hongfang was about to leave the hotel, he also beat Wang Fang. "I'm going out now. Help me tidy up the room." Li Hongfang glanced lazily at Wang Fang and walked towards the elevator. "Okay." Wang Fang forced a smile. She immediately got the news in a small group that Li Hongfang was signing for a private room. At first, Wang Fang didn't believe it, until manager Zhao asked her to take charge of Li Hongfang's room service. Wang Fang was very resistant, but there was nothing she could do. After all, this was her job, and manager Zhao had no reason to offend customers for her. Looking at Li Hongfang's vixen-like small waist and big butt, Wang Fang sneered. This woman must have been kept, maybe it was the young man she brought to the employee rest area last time. Such young men's eyes light up when they look at such little vixens, and only their figures are in their eyes. How can they pay attention to the more attractive temperament and connotation of other women? Wang Fang herself is the kind of woman who deserves to be carefully read by men. She is like a book and exudes a scholarly quality. How can she be as coquettish as Li Hongfang? However, Li Hongfang thought that asking Wang Fang to take charge of room service was humiliating Wang Fang, so he was wrong. Wang Fang swiped the room card and entered. Except for a black box left by Li Hongfang, there were no other personal belongings in the guest room. Wang Fang called the housekeeper. After a brief cleaning, Wang Fang asked the housekeeper to leave. Then she took off her underwear, boiled it in the kettle, and then poured away the boiled water. Then she took off her socks and wiped the mouthwash cup in front of the sink, the tea cups at the water bar, wine glasses, coffee cups, dinner plates, and knives, etc. Then she wiped her feet with a large towel and wiped herself with a small square towel. After doing all this, Wang Fang sneered and left. Since she was asked to be responsible for room service, then Li Hongfang would enjoy such VIP room service for the next year. This was saved by a spinster in her 30s. Body scent aromatherapy. Wang Fang had just walked out of the guest room when she saw Li Hongfang and manager Zhao walking over, followed by two hotel security guards. The corners of Li Hongfang's mouth were slightly raised, while manager Zhao was furious. "Wang Fang, you're fired. Get out of here right now." Manager Zhao was a bit hypertensive, his eyes were furious, and his fingers were trembling. Why?" Wang Fang was stunned for a moment, looked at manager Zhao in disbelief, and then his eyes fell on Li Hongfang. They used to say that this little coquettish vixen hooked up with manager Zhao, but now she has hooked up with manager Zhao once she got the upper hand. Otherwise, how could manager Zhao fire him? You, what did you do in the guest room just now?" Manager Zhao opened his mouth, and he felt sick. In fact, there are always some weird customers, lazy waiters, and various uncomfortable situations and incidents in hotels, but there are not many like Wang Fang. I didn't do anything. She asked me to check the room again," Wang Fang said hurriedly. "Ms. Li, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer." The hotel will deal with this matter seriously. Manager Zhao ignored Wang Fang. If such a thing was exposed, not to mention that his position as a manager would not be guaranteed, I am afraid that the hotel would notorious. It doesn't matter. Please change the room for me. Also, this person needs to be fired, otherwise I won't be able to live in peace of mind. Li Hongfang turned on her phone, which showed the surveillance video of the room just now. Although it is illegal to install pinhole cameras for surveillance in hotels, this is a long private room she booked, so there is no problem with installing surveillance. Manager Zhao was secretly lucky. He understood that Li Hongfang's ultimate goal was to fire Wang Fang, not to target the hotel. Thinking about Li Hongfang's approach, there is actually no problem. He lives here, and someone like Wang Fang, who has had conflicts in the past, works, and everyone who lives there will feel uncomfortable. Li Hongfang. You did it on purpose, Wang Fang screamed and rushed towards Li Hongfang. Li Hongfang easily avoided it and stepped back from Wang Fang's back, allowing Wang Fang to push the dog to chew its shit. Two security guards quickly grabbed Wang Fang and pulled Wang Fang out, who was scolding angrily. As a sincere apology, please Miss Li, allow us to upgrade your room. Manager Zhao bowed and smiled bitterly towards the floor. Li Hongfang must have planned it before moving in. If she suddenly asked, it would definitely not work if Manager Zhao fired Wang Fang, but now there is no problem at all. Okay, Li Hongfang went back to the room to dismantle the camera. She felt a little emotional. Since working with Brother Lu, she has also learned from his kindness and generosity. When facing ordinary people, he will not kill, poison, etc., and it's just a small punishment. The kind and generous Lu Chang'an, after leaving the shared house of Li Hongfang and Mu Qing, trotted to the top of Lushan Mountain, carrying a plastic bag filled with water, instead of walking slowly. Qin Yinan was preparing work plans for the start of school. She was a little surprised to see Lu Chang'an coming over, but she did not show any surprise. A woman like her who had been pregnant for many months should have received a lot of care and visits from him. But in fact, even though she was in urgent need of care, nutrition, and good health during her pregnancy, he had no intention of moving around at all. She often needed her to come to him before he was willing to wander over after pushing her around. Seeing that he was carrying a plastic bag, he was probably going to use something in it to supplement her nutrition. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikin Ru Xiahua. Chapter 789. After the new year, the eldest young master of the Tang family had a new work arrangement. At the same time, thanks to the further consolidation of his position within the Tang family, the old man also decided to pour all resources into him, and the eldest young master of the Tang family had a further say in the Tang family. Aggravated. There were no internal rivals to complain about Sister Lan, so the eldest young master of the Tang family finally took Sister Lan to live with her again as a nanny. Qin Yinan no longer has a nanny. Qin Yinan, who is alone at home, is dressed very casually. She wears a white suspender skirt. Her round shoulders and delicate collarbones are like the artistic temperament of a painted beauty, but the delicate skin texture is far more moving than an inanimate sculpture. Qin Yinan glanced at the door, lazily raised her arms, did not stand up, but changed to a more comfortable posture. Her waist sank, making her body curves appear more exquisite, and it also made her mind more mature. Powerful momentum. Even she herself sometimes feels unbelievable. With such an amazingly plump upper body, there is such a light waist underneath. Could it be that she cannot support it? On the other hand, the lines below the waist were undulating again, like a full moon embedded between the willow waist and long legs. Qin Yinan's fingers fell under the skirt, and her fingertips touched the soft and smooth silk stockings on her legs, which she was wearing today. They are garter stockings. One end of the thin garter strap pulls the edge of the stockings at the base of the legs, and the other end is connected to the waist. It perfectly combines the black charm of the stockings with the white softness of the skin. Women sometimes dress themselves up not only to seduce the opposite sex, but also to immerse themselves in their own beauty and feel satisfied looking at their beautiful and sexy selves. Have you eaten? Lu Chang'an changed into slippers, walked to the center of the living room, and looked at Qin Yan'an who was lying lazily on the sofa. She seemed to have really become a pregnant woman who was reluctant to move due to the burden on her body. Her silky hair hung down from the side of her face and fell on her shoulders. She had a lazy look and lying posture, and there was a lazy charm between her eyebrows and eyes. Drink some porridge. Qin Yan'an pressed her skirt with her fingers, sat up on the sofa, put her legs together and put them down diagonally. I caught an eel in the river. I cooked it and we'll have some together for lunch. Lu Chang'an walked to the kitchen. Qin Yan'an stood up and followed him. It is said that men are lower body animals, but in Qin Yan'an's opinion, Lu Chang'an paid more attention to his stomach. Obviously there was such a lively beauty lying on the sofa, but in his eyes it seemed to be less important than the eel in the plastic bag filled with water. Isn't the white eel considered to be tall and slender? But is it as slender as Qin Yan'an? The eel's tail is swaying back and forth. Is it as beautiful as the swaying curves of a woman's waist? No matter how delicious the white eel is it even more delicious when it's beautiful and delicious? The eel's meat is tender, doesn't it mean it has tender skin and tender meat? Qin Yan'an didn't believe it, but Lu Chang'an was dominated by his stomach. He was not using his lower body to think about problems. He was simply dominated by the desire of his tongue. Why are you free to come here today? Qin Yan'an said, I thought I would have a chance to see you before school starts. It seems that today is my lucky day. I will burn incense later to fulfill my wish. Why are you so weird? Lu Chang'an laughed. Zhu Huntang said that you stay in the mountains all day to raise a baby, and it seems to be true. But you raise a baby, 10 or 8 years is considered short. Am I still like this? Treat pregnant women like ordinary people, taking care of her every day? I don't have that patience. Then you should at least come and take a look every now and then. Qin Yan'an snorted. I think you were looking for a place to cook today, so you thought of me by the way. You can guess this, Lu Chang'an said in surprise. Qin Yan'an was so angry that the straps of her skirt were so tight. Didn't he know that pregnant women couldn't be so angry? What if she gets mad? What should she do if her angry baby doesn't want to be born? What if, he couldn't make the pregnant woman angry anyway, he just didn't take her seriously. Think about a pregnant woman in an ordinary family. She is simply the most precious person in the family. You can let her rest without letting her lift a finger. Turn on the air conditioner for fear that she will have a headache and catch a cold, and turn on the fan for fear that she will feel uncomfortable. Every day, you should carefully checking the recipe. I was afraid that I might give her something she shouldn't eat. He was nice, and he even said that there would be no problem in giving her arsenic. I'll prepare the food first, and I'll coax you later. Looking back at the angry Qin Yan'an, Lu Chang'an smiled and comforted her before she got angry. That's pretty much it? Qin Yan'an snorted again and stood in the kitchen without intending to go out. Watching him busy, she was actually a little hungry. After all, she only drank a little porridge at noon. She was a pregnant woman and had to provide nutrition for the baby in her belly. Is not enough. I don't know if it was a psychological effect, but Qin Yan'an always felt that her appetite was much better now, even though she also knew that the baby in her belly needed nutrients that ordinary meals could not provide at all. Lu Chang'an killed the eel, cleaned the internal organs, cut it into pieces and put it on a plate. He mixed the sauce and poured it on it. Then he put the plate in a steamer with boiling water, set it to high heat and steamed it for 10 minutes, and then cut the ginger, garlic, and pepper. Wait until 1 minute before the end time of the steamer is set, then put these ginger, garlic, and pepper in the pot and stir fry. When the time set for the steamer came, he opened the steamer, and Lu Chang'an sprinkled the freshly fried oil on the eel. The aroma suddenly overflowed, and the eel was shiny in color. When he picked a section with his chopsticks, he could see that the eel meat was tender and smooth, which made him feel happy. People can't help but salivate. Of course, the main meal at noon cannot be just this one dish. Lu Chang'an found fresh rabbit meat in Qin Yinan's refrigerator, so he ordered fried rabbit meat with fresh pepper. The recipe is similar to the traditional local fried pork with green pepper, except that there is less soy sauce. Let the rabbit meat maintain a more delicious original flavor. Let's have a simple poached egg and minced tofu soup, which is delicious and nutritious. In fact, many times, rich nutrition means delicious food, and ingredients without nutrients often lack delicious taste. Lu Chang'an sat at the dining table. Qin Yinan opened a bottle of champagne to accompany the meal. After pouring the wine, he asked Lu Chang'an if he wanted to drink orange juice. "You asked after you poured me a drink. You obviously just want me to drink with you." Lu Chang'an shook his head. He often drinks orange juice, but he doesn't only drink orange juice at all times. Qin Yinan actually has a lot of orange juice prepared at home. Who knows that she is a careful person? Many times when you meet Lu Chang'an, you will see him drinking from a bottle of orange juice. After lunch, Qin Yinan drank some wine, her cheeks were pink and moist, and she lay on the bed again, holding a home appliance manual in her hand and flipping through it boredly. Although the vast majority of household appliances are now becoming smart and easy to operate, basically just plug them in and use them, their functions are actually becoming more and more diversified. Sometimes, when you look through the manual, you find that a certain appliance actually there is a feature that I really need but have never paid attention to. Of course, Qin Yinan is in no mood to read through it now. She always feels that her life situation is a bit contradictory. She wants to fall in love, but the person she wants to fall in love with may not be willing to fall in love with her. But she was pregnant with his child, but he only regarded her as his sister. If you really think about it, her intimate relationship with him happened more than 100 years ago. It may have continued to this day. There may be nothing he can do about it, but it is completely different for Qin Yinan. Sometimes she would use Ye Saijan's identity to give herself extra points, and sometimes she hoped that he would care about her not just because of Ye Saijan's identity. Now I am Qin Yinan, and my relationship with him is also very complicated. She is my sister and my cousin, and because he is pregnant with a child, this child has no genetic relationship with him. When I came to Juncha a year ago, I never thought that it would be such a situation, right? Qin Yinan looked at Lu Chang'an's figure flashing past in the restaurant, his eyes blurred. After Lu Chang'an cleared the dining table, he tidied the kitchen. After all, Qin Yinan no longer had a nanny or maid around, and the hotel downstairs would only send someone to clean up the hotel after Qin Yinan needed it. Qin Yinan usually lives here and doesn't want hotel staff to disturb her private space. In fact, Qin Yinan's pregnancy status has no impact on her life, work, or body. However, if she talks too much, Lu Chang'an will be affected to some extent and will subconsciously treat her as a pregnant woman. Pregnant women naturally sit and rest after eating, and it is not her turn to clean the table and kitchen. After Lu Chang'an finished his work, he sorted the garbage into bags and threw it into the garbage channel. Brother Qin Yinan called out in a soft voice. All she needed was for Lu Chang'an to come and see her if he had anything to do, as long as he was within her sight. The feeling like this was very warm. Lu Chang'an took a bottle of sparkling water from the refrigerator and walked to Qin Yinan while drinking it. Qin Yinan pointed to her side and motioned for Lu Chang'an to sit down. Lu Chang'an took a look. The sofa was very long, more than enough for Qin Yinan to lie down on. There was also a horizontal section for people to lie down on. The position Qin Yinan pointed at was the edge of the sofa in front of her. Seeing that Lu Chang'an did not sit down, Qin Yinan pouted, then shrank in, leaning against the sofa, and continued to ask Lu Chang'an to sit here. My butt is too big to sit down. Lu Chang'an sat on the other end. Qin Yinan kicked her toes and angrily kicked a pillow onto Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an grabbed the pillow and continued to drink water. School is about to start, do you have any plans? Qin Yinan asked casually. It felt good to be able to chat about leisure topics in a leisure atmosphere. After all, Qin Yinan is a girl who has never experienced love, and she is not that tired. She does not need to be with him all the time, she just likes this feeling of being together. There is not so much passion and sweetness in love, but more like a real sister. She is attached to her giggling, and when she chats with him about the trivial things in life, she can feel a kind of light happiness and warmth like family. I don't have any plans. Lu Chang'an raised his head and thought for a while, study hard and make progress every day. This is necessary. I skipped a lot of classes last semester, but I will study more next semester. Both you and Zhu Huntang skipped a lot of classes. Qin Yinan couldn't help but take on the role of counselor, and it sounded a bit serious when she said it. If this semester is more extreme than last semester, I won't be able to say hello. I'm sure there's no problem. You shouldn't have to say hello to Zhu Huntang. Could the courtyard really do anything to her? Even if the courtyard wants to punish her, the school won't agree. If she is really expelled, the school's donation who will be responsible for investing in school-run enterprises? Lu Chang'an shook his head. Compared to Zhu Huntang, he is not too excessive, that is, he is at a level where more ordinary students escape. Lu Chang'an thought about it carefully, and it seemed that Zhu Huntang went to class, but there seemed to be very few classes in which he was absent. When he skipped class, Zhu Huntang basically skipped class. Many times when he came to class, Zhu Huntang might not come. It was just that he escaped a little less during a certain exam last semester, but that was of no use. In the end, Zhu Huntang still ranked last in the whole grade. Thinking of this, Lu Chang'an felt a little bit of shame. She must be forced not to skip classes this semester and not fail the final exam again. It seemed a bit impossible. Her foundation was too poor. There is nothing that can be done about it. Mainland students have much more learning content than other regions and are more competitive. Zhu Huntang's learning has always been so-so, and is at a low level outside the mainland. Just relying on her hard work this semester, there is not much hope for her to reach a passing level. A similar situation is to let Zhou Dongdong memorize the 1,000-character essay as super difficult as before graduating from elementary school, and let a liberal arts student with no mathematical foundation study Goldbach's conjecture. I asked Yan Qingcheng, and she said that Zhu Huntang has made progress. Qin Yinan said with concern. Although Zhu Huntang became Su Mei's daughter, and Qin Yinan and Su Mei were at odds, the relationship between Qin Yinan and Zhu Huntang was not affected. As long as Zhu Huntang does not affect the intelligence of the baby in Qin Yinan's belly, Qin Yinan will be Zhu Huntang's best friend under any other circumstances. Otherwise, Qin Yinan would not have paid attention to the class situation, Zhu Huntang's progress, etc. after introducing Yan Qingcheng to class. She is a tutor. Of course she said she has made progress. Could it be that she also said that she is useless as a tutor? Lu Chang'an said objectively and with some appreciation. Yan Qingcheng will definitely be able to make her own career in the future, or someone who has become an elite in the workplace. She can tolerate Zhu Huntang and has the patience to face Zhu Huntang, which is already a quite remarkable training and experience. Qin Yinan laughed out loud. There was no doubt that Lu Chang'an was close to the point of being unbearable towards Zhu Huntang, and even began to admire Yan Qingcheng, who could patiently teach Zhu Huntang. When you have time, you can take a look at how Yan Qingcheng teaches. Maybe you can learn some experience. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Then we can only watch the video recording of their class. If I were there, Zhu Huntang would just want to cause trouble and provoke me in various ways. She has a sheepdoll suit, forget it, let's not talk about it. Seeing Lu Chang'an's appearance, Qin Yinan's lips curled up slightly. Even Lu Chang'an had no way to deal with Zhu Huntang. Such situations rarely happen to Lu Chang'an, but Qin Yinan also knows that it is difficult for Lu Chang'an to deal with Zhu Huntang, Not because Zhu Huntang is so smart, brave, and resourceful, even though Zhu Huntang thinks so. The main reason is that Lu Chang'an knew the true relationship between Zhu Huntang and him. He said that there was no genetic inheritance and it was not a real father-daughter relationship, but in his heart he regarded Zhu Huntang as a daughter. No matter how she provoked him, no matter how she tried to commit suicide, he would not use the same methods to deal with others to torment her. This will probably be the case when his own child is born in the future. This can be seen from Lu Chang'an's attitude towards Zhu Huntang. It can be seen that children's education, starting from prenatal education, is very important. Qin Yan'an said meaningfully, Zhu Huntang and I are friends. I think she is very good and I can accept her personality shortcomings, but from a parent's perspective, I think Su Mei did a pretty bad job. Tell me about it. Lu Chang'an looked at Qin Yan'an with interest. He had also thought about this question and made up his mind. The children Qin Yan'an gave birth to would no longer be as confused as Zhu Huntang in the future. The first is the importance of prenatal education. You can start from now on. Qin Yan'an pointed to her belly, then looked at her belly tenderly with loving eyes, and placed her palms on it and stroked it gently. There is nothing pretentious about this kind of action. Although Lu Chang'an thinks that it is a bit inappropriate for her to think that she is pregnant now, Qin Yan'an still gradually formed the mentality of an expectant mother through such self-suggestion. You can start now. Think about how long Su Mei's pregnancy was. She gave birth to Zhu Huntang only 19 years ago. If you start prenatal care from now on, how many years will it take? I need to get a doctorate. It's not as long as the time you can spend on prenatal education. Well, in the time you spend on prenatal education, an ordinary person may be able to grow into an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Lu Chang'an held out a few fingers to indicate. Although he couldn't be sure how many years earlier the gestational sac in Qin Yan'an's belly could have been delivered than Su Mei gave birth to Zhu Huntang with his nutritional supplements, he conservatively estimated that it could only be 10 or 8 years earlier, or even 20 or 30 years. Biologically speaking, it is just a gestational sac, but objectively it is already an extraordinary creature. An extraordinary creature does not mean how powerful it is. First of all, it must have a long life, and its gestation period is much longer than that of ordinary creatures. It is precisely because of the long gestation period that the necessary nutrients and energy for growth can be accumulated in this primitive state, laying a solid foundation for a long life in the future. It is precisely because of the long prenatal education time that it shows the parents' dedication to it. Qin Yan'an insisted, I don't care how long it takes, anyway, we can perform prenatal education on it from the time it is a gestational sac. Now it is just a ball of flesh. What can it learn? Lu Chang'an was a little helpless. Generally speaking, the fetus touch and taste development is completed at 16 weeks, and it begins to respond to light at 18 weeks. At 20 weeks it will develop hearing only when it is born. At this time, it will have the ability to dream, remember, and simply think like normal people. In other words, in addition to physical development and growth, the psychological state of the fetus has begun to grow at this time. For ordinary children, prenatal education starts at 16 weeks. Hey, tell me about your gestational sac. Where is the basis for prenatal education? Does it have the ability to touch, or has its taste development been completed, or is it hearing, memory, thinking? How do you know it doesn't exist? Qin Yan'an was full of confidence in her gestational sac baby. How can you use your knowledge of ordinary creatures to judge the characteristics of life you have never seen? It's like exploring when it comes to extraterrestrial creatures. It is absurd to speculate on the characteristics of extraterrestrial creatures strictly based on the Earth's environment. What Qin Yan'an said made sense, and Lu Chang'an would not be stubborn when others said something reasonable. Okay, then you can start prenatal education. Prenatal education usually involves sound teaching. First, Let's start with music that is conducive to spiritual development and can calm the fetus. Lu Chang'an chose a piece of pure music on the music player and played it. Qin Yinan is not an audiophile, so she did not install a professional set of speakers in the living room. She just hung two smoke-colored B/U002600A9 speakers on the wall, which matched the color of the overall home decoration. When a woman buys something, appearance is always an important criterion for her choice. Lu Chang'an listened to the music and looked back at Qin Yinan. Besides listening to music, what other methods of prenatal education are there? Let me think about it. How about I read a few songs? Poetry. Start learning the book of songs from your mother's womb. How can a fetus understand the book of songs, seeing that he still chose to cooperate with her request? Qin Yinan complained with a little satisfaction. Can fetuses understand music? Lu Chang'an cleared his throat and read a song Ge-tan to himself. Ge-tan is blooming, spreading in the middle valley, and the leaves are luxuriant. The yellow bird is flying, gathering. On the shrubs, it sings the sound of cutting and cutting. The kudzu is planted in the middle valley, and the leaves are moist. This is the cutting, the sewage, and the clothes are not cut. Tell the master, tell the family, and return. I am not a dirty person. I am private, but my clothes are thin. Is it harmful to me? I want to return to my parents. This is what he plans to teach Zhu Huntang, but he has something to do today, so he will let Zhu Huntang go for the time being, otherwise he should teach her this poem today. If you read poetry like this, you can only read it to me. People read poetry to the fetus, always close to the belly. Qin Yinan said with a little dissatisfaction after hearing him finish reading. It can't understand even if it's close to her belly. Lu Chang'an glanced at Qin Yinan's belly. Even though she was wearing a skirt, because of her lying position, the skirt was not close to her skin, but it could still be seen that her belly was very flat and completely. There is no bulging belly characteristic of pregnant women. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 790. The cotton material of her skirt is so soft that you can imagine feeling the warmth on your skin when you touch it. How will you know if you don't try? Qin Yinan blushed and waved. Come on, it's not a troublesome thing. Lu Chang'an thought for a while. If he didn't try, she probably wouldn't give up and would always pester him. Maybe he would bring this up next time, so why not satisfy her? So Lu Chang'an moved his body and moved closer to Qin Yinan on the sofa. Qin Yinan lay down on her back, leaned her legs inward, and motioned for him to sit up a little more. Then she pulled two pillows behind her and sat up. She stroked her lower abdomen with her hands several times, letting her skirt stick to her skin and reveal her skin. The abdomen is flat. Lu Chang'an glanced at Qin Yinan. Her slightly shy look was very touching. After all, she was a beauty that Lu Chang'an believed was rare in 5,000 years. He had also personally told others that Yesijin was the most beautiful. What you said makes sense. Music is a kind of sound wave vibration. In fact, it is transmitted through the air and then transmitted to the fetus through the belly. The effect is very limited. Lu Chang'an nodded after thinking deeply. Of course that was the case. Qin Yinan reached over and turned off the speaker with the remote control to show her support for his statement. Lu Chang'an brought a blanket over and covered it under Qin Yinan's belly, then motioned for Qin Yinan to pull up her skirt to expose her belly. Qin Yinan is a little shy. That's how he is. If he doesn't do something, he will be more serious and extreme when doing it. Obviously he thinks that it will have an effect through a skirt, and it will definitely be better if it is directly against her skin. She didn't resist. After all, she was a mature woman. Why should she be like a young girl who was willing and impatient inside but still acted coy and reserved on the outside? It was almost the same when he examined her, as long as he didn't spit on her belly today. Qinyanan gently tugged on the skirt with her fingers, carefully pulling it up little by little, so as not to let the blanket slide down and make him mistakenly think that she had other thoughts. She was just doing it for the sake of her children. Would she still be dissatisfied and pretend to accidentally expose her skirt to seduce him? Of course not. Changed to a simpler poem, Qinyanan's cheeks were slightly red, and she looked at him with gentle eyebrows. Now she really felt like a newlywed wife and her husband enjoying the happy things in their family. No, since music is the vibration of sound waves, I directly convey this vibration to it, which can make it feel the melody of the music and cultivate its sentiments. After speaking, Lu Chang'an gently placed his hands on Qinyanan's lower abdomen. Qinyanan couldn't help but tremble slightly, then bit her lip and looked at him inexplicably. Lu Chang'an raised his hand and patted it. Qinyanan was a little confused. There was still a sense of rhythm in his shooting. A traditional drum song, 8 Immortals Crossing the Sea, is dedicated to our unborn children. Lu Chang'an found his hand and began to play the famous traditional drum song 8 Immortals Crossing the Sea by tapping Qinyanan's belly. Qinyanan watched in amazement as Lu Chang'an patted her belly. Under his palms, her belly seemed to be a real drum, making it rise and fall, swell and bounce. "Get out of here." After being stunned for a while, Qinyanan looked at Lu Chang'an's engaged expression, as if he was not slapping her belly, but playing on some formal occasion. Finally, she turned around and kicked Lu Chang'an angrily. "What are you doing? Doesn't this allow the child to feel the melody of the music directly through vibration?" Lu Chang'an patted a few times before he was satisfied. At the same time, he was kicked a few times by her and stood up quickly. His prenatal education music can make those cells feel better than any other music. After all, this kind of direct vibration transmission is lossless and efficient. Qinyanan didn't bother to pull down her skirt. She stood up and pushed Lu Chang'an into the elevator and drove him out. Watching the elevator go down, Qinyanan pulled up her skirt angrily, walked around the living room with her hands on her chest. Suddenly I felt some asymmetrical relief on my shoulders. I turned around and took a look, only to find that one side of the sling was broken. The quality of the skirt was so bad that Qinyanan took it off and threw it into the trash can. In fact, this is a common thing. You can't blame this skirt. After all, when it was designed with materials, it was not thought to withstand such an unbearable weight. Qinyanan patted his forehead. Lu Chang'an always did such unexpected things and had to find someone to complain about, so Qinyanan called Zhu Huntang. It was still early, and evil spirits and the like began to gradually wake up in the afternoon, but they would definitely wait until after sunset to become active. In the middle of the night, when the moonlight condensed the yin energy and became strong, it was the time for them to frequently appear and act as monsters. So Lu Chang'an walked slowly and leisurely back to his home, and then went to Hexi to find Li Hongfang in the evening. Returning to the community, Lu Chang'an saw Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong under the sycamore tree. Shang Guandandan held a thermos bottle and sat on the thickest tree branch. Her skirt swayed with her swaying little feet, like a kite in the spring breeze. Her toes were exposed from time to time, and the soles of her feet were white. Clean, like tender and white fish belly meat. Her hair hangs down on both sides and is tangled together in strands. If you don't look carefully, you might think it is a black rope. The rope braided by her hair is tied around the tree branches, and then hangs down and tied to the small bench. Zhou Dongdong was sitting on the small bench swinging back and forth. The hair is so long, it looks like a monster, Lu Chang'an sighed. He had little experience, and Shang Guandandan was the most monster-like creature he had ever seen. My hair is tied to a tree branch, so I don't have much strength to lift Zhou Dongdong on the swing, Shang Guandandan quickly explained to Lu Chang'an, lest he think she was very strong. She is just a weak queen mother who doesn't have much strength. She can only eat to replenish her body every day, but she has no ability to do housework. Yeah, Lu Chang'an agreed. Brother Chang'an, we met the professor's sister this morning. She treated us to beef stewed with radish, and then she said she was your girlfriend. Zhou Dongdong actively reported what happened today. Huh, Lu Chang'an raised his head and looked at Shang Guandandan. In terms of telling the truth about what happened, there is no doubt that Shang Guandandan is more reliable than Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong is always prone to distorting other people's words. Countless times, he derived meanings related to eating from Lu Chang'an's unrelated words. Shang Guandandan nodded. Lu Yuwang's original words at that time were Lu Chang'an's girlfriend and Nuan's mother. Normal people can understand this sentence to mean that she is An Nuan's mother, and An Nuan is Lu Chang'an's girlfriend, but if you understand that Lu Chang'an's girlfriend is An Nuan's mother, there is no problem. What's more, Shang Guandandan could feel the distribution of essence in Lu Yuwang's body, so there would be no problem. Lu Chang'an frowned and decided not to take this matter to heart. Lu Yuwang seemed a bit naive among her peers, but after all, she was a normal person with normal thoughts and would not say such outrageous things. Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong are different. One is a monster with zombie attributes, and the other is a stupid child who will be disappointed when seeing zombies. Getting to the bottom of their rhetoric is a waste of time and pointless. Lu Chang'an grabbed Zhou Dongdong's head, and then pushed Zhou Dongdong to swing on the swing. The swing was almost level with Shang Guandandan's feet, and Zhou Dongdong screamed. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 791. The swing slowly stopped, and Zhou Dongdong was still excited. He changed from sitting to standing on the small bench, looking at Lu Chang'an expectantly. What else do you want to do? Lu Chang'an didn't understand the look in her eyes. This was probably a sequelae of spending time with Shang Guandandan. He always wanted to realize his wishes just by looking at others. You push me very high, and then I let go, and I can fly out. Zhou Dongdong once tried to turn his hands quickly to make himself fly, but he failed. He was pushed by Brother Chang'an just now when he was very high. Zhou Dongdong felt like he could fly again. When Shang Guandandan saw Lu Chang'an's frowning expression, he sat on a tree branch and chuckled. Do you really hope you can fly? Since ancient times, human beings have had the dream of flying, which is vividly reflected in Zhou Dongdong. Yeah, like an eagle. Oh, so you hope that you can fly freely like an eagle? Lu Chang'an nodded. No, I want to fly to the sky like an eagle to catch birds to eat. Lu Chang'an lifted Zhou Dongdong off the bench, and Zhou Dongdong waved his arm. It seemed that Brother Chang'an did not want her to be like an eagle. Zhou Dongdong, a mediocre and boring soul is a kind of sadness, but I hope you can be more ordinary. Don't let people think that you are an antelope with its horns hanging on its horns. There is no trace to turn to, and you can't keep up with your thoughts at all, Lu Chang'an said seriously. Zhou Dongdong gave some life advice. Zhou Dongdong didn't understand what he was saying, so he continued to wave his arms, and then ran upstairs because he was a little hungry and wanted to eat braised pig trotters, chicken feet, add calcium milk, broad beans, spicy strips, planet cup, shakima potato chips, squid tentacles, and aria. Shang Guandandan's hair let go of the small bench like water, and then returned to its normal appearance, like a piece of black moonlight draping from her shoulders and swaying on the girl's delicate back. Can you use your hair to tie an object of Zhou Dongdong's size and weight and throw it on the roof of the Bailong Center opposite? Lu Chang'an asked casually. No, Shang Guandandan denied firmly. She suspected that Lu Chang'an wanted to test her strength. If she had that much strength, Lu Chang'an would definitely arrange for her to work every day and arrange her to work in Zhou Shuling's restaurant. Go or something like that. Shang Guandandan knew that he was going to open a second restaurant, and Zhou Shuling would definitely be too busy. Lu Chang'an might let Shang Guandandan be the store manager. In order to show that she was just an ordinary weak girl, Shang Guandandan did not jump directly from the tree branch. Instead, She carried a thermos bottle on her back and carefully slid down the sycamore tree trunk. "It's so flexible," Lu Chang'an commented. "You called me a monkey," Shang Guandandan discovered Lu Chang'an's true meaning angrily. "Stop pretending to dance in the square tonight, come with me to catch ghosts." Lu Chang'an hoped that Shang Guandandan could realize some value in life. Since Zhou Shuling is her favorite daughter-in-law, it is her duty to help eliminate evil spirits from the future restaurant. "Where are we going to catch ghosts?" Shang Guandandan took a sip of water. Lu Chang'an was choosing a location for the new restaurant, and Li Hongfang discovered something unusual and told her about it. "Well, I'm going. I want to protect Dongdong's mother," Shang Guandandan said seriously, "but how can we catch him? Such things as ghosts and evil spirits will disappear by themselves as soon as they meet someone with your status or mine. You are thinking too much. You are just a girl holding a pot. I am a college student. Don't always take the identity of the emperor and the queen mother seriously. The remnants of feudalism are like shady ghosts and evil spirits. In the face of the blows of the proletarian dictatorship and the iron fist of socialism, it can only disappear." Lu Chang'an found that Shang Guandandan's thoughts were very stubborn and he never forgot his feudal identity. If those fraud organizations that say I, Qin Shi Huang, pay money meet Shang Guandandan, they can also form a new scam of I, the Queen Mother of the Han Dynasty, pay money. Combined with Shang Guandandan's overall quality and ability level, it may even form a certain scam. Climate, in the end, Shang Guandandan himself, as the core figure, was eradicated and arrested by the state. At that time, Lu Chang'an had no choice but to capture her and put her in the coffin again. It was quite an interesting story. Shang Guandandan looked at Lu Chang'an suspiciously. He must be thinking of something against her, but Shang Guandandan didn't mind. Lu Chang'an was never kind by nature. Ever since he robbed her pony carriage, he still hasn't repented. After touching her own owl, Shang Guandandan didn't say anything. After all, she just wanted to live a filial life with his mother and son. No matter how naughty Lu Chang'an was, she had to be a broad-minded queen mother and tolerate what he did. "Do. Then let me touch your head, and I'll go with you." Shang Guandandan stood on the small bench, raised his hand and let his loose Shui Yun sleeves fall down, revealing his white arms and waving. "Didn't you just agree to go?" Lu Chang'an took 2 steps forward without paying much attention. He had done many things for the first time, and he was not so resistant the second time. Just touch his head and he would not lose a hair. He still looked around and found no one, frowned and glanced at Shang Guandandan, and then came within reach of her palms with his head raised and expressionless. After touching his head, Shang Guandandan jumped on Lu Chang'an's back, hugged his neck tightly, raised his legs and clamped his waist tightly. "You said you are not a monkey," Lu Chang'an asked firmly. "If I were a monkey, you would be a little monkey." Shang Guandandan was in a good mood after touching his head. He didn't care that he insulted the noble and elegant queen mother and looked like some other animal. "What should you eat at night? You have to eat well to have strength." Catching ghosts. Lu Chang'an decided to cook at home. Now that the economic conditions have improved, the frequency of cooking for himself has decreased. This is not a situation Lu Chang'an is happy to see, so he cooks himself. When people live, they have to do everything by themselves in order to live a more enjoyable life. Countless details in life are worth experiencing. If you feel that something is tedious, repetitive, and boring, then think carefully about how to make it interesting. As long as you are willing to think about everything in the world, you can always find some fun. Thinking of this, Lu Chang'an would inevitably criticize Zhu Huntang in his heart. This sheep found fun in repeating boring things like, but she did not draw inferences from one instance and found more interesting things in other things. The feeling is that I still do nothing and never do it myself. The main dish in the evening was blood duck, which is Lu Chang'an's specialty. Of course, Lu Chang'an's specialty is not only 8,000 but also 10,000. When making blood duck, he still prefers the method in southern Hunan, rather than the blood duck of Yinta restaurant. French blood duck. The representative blood duck in southern Hunan is Ningyuan blood duck. Lu Chang'an's method is basically similar, but he prefers to use old ginger and spicy chili peppers. In this wet and cold weather of the end of winter, eating the hot and warm blood duck, very comfortable. Lu Chang'an also wants to pair it with cold beer to feel refreshed. After eating the duck meat and soaking the rice in the soup, people can't help but feel as satisfied as eating. After dinner, Lu Chang'an took the food box to deliver a meal to Zhou Shuling. By the way, he placed Zhou Dongdong in the restaurant as a mascot to increase the order rate. After all, customers often feel that they don't count when they look at such a child. UN, it's okay to eat more. After playing in the restaurant for a while and seeing Zhou Shuling's expression revealing that Lu Chang'an was still Lu Chang'an and that she was just a stupid mother and could never compete with him in cooking, Lu Chang'an took Shang Guandandan slowly to Hexi with satisfaction. Walk slowly. According to the time of the video shot by Li Hongfang, it was still early. Lu Chang'an first brought Shang Guandandan to Li Hongfang's hotel. Because the elevator requires a swipe card to press the floor button, Li Hongfang came to pick up Lu Chang'an and saw Shang Guandandan sleeping soundly on Lu Chang'an's back. Li Hongfang knew how powerful Shang Guandandan was, and couldn't help but be in awe. It seemed that Shang Guandandan was another big shot in the section, thinking about how Shang Guandandan helped her extract the strange substances remaining in her body. This mysterious and strange thing, his ability, was enough to make Li Hongfang feel in awe. Brother Lu, what did you do with the living dead you carried back that day in Wang Mang's tomb? Seeing Shang Guandandan, Li Hongfang couldn't help but recall what happened in the robbery cave. She stood behind Lu Chang'an and touched her buttocks, as if there was still a dull pain, so I quickly clamped my legs. At first, Li Hongfang suspected that the living dead was Wang Zhenjun, the daughter of Lu He and Shang Guandandan. Now that Shang Guandandan was right in front of her, Li Hongfang didn't dare to talk nonsense anymore. She drained her essence and blood and turned her into a white skeleton. Lu Chang'an did not hide the truth from Li Hongfang. Most people have no need to make up a story to hide the truth. At most, they just don't tell it if they don't want to. Then, it doesn't seem to be so and so's daughter. After all, tigers can't eat their venom. Li Hongfang's teeth chattered against the ground. Her well thought out and perfectly logical reasoning was wrong. If in front of other people, Li Hongfang would still insist on fighting, but facing Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan, Li Hongfang still cherishes the small life that he narrowly escaped death. When Shang Guandandan wakes up later, tell her the story you told me that night, Lu Chang'an suggested in a gentle tone. No, I forgot. Li Hongfang waved her hands quickly. She suddenly felt that when Lu Chang'an's tone or smile was gentle, it was probably dangerous. So when he was throwing cans by the river at noon today, he looked at himself with a gentle smile. What was he thinking at that time? Li Hongfang couldn't help but shudder with fear. Arriving in Li Hongfang's room, Shang Guandandan opened his eyes in a daze, slid down from Lu Chang'an's back and looked around, then turned to look at Li Hongfang. Are you the ghost we want to catch today? No, Li Hongfang waved her hands quickly. Empress Dowager, I am also going to catch ghosts. Oh, Shang Guandandan shifted his attention and his eyes fell on the TV on the wall. Li Hongfang was very discerning and immediately turned on the TV, pulled it out from the wall, adjusted the angle to face the sofa, and then invited Shang Guandandan to sit on the sofa and watch TV. Shang Guandandan actually didn't want to watch TV, she was just interested in the TV, to be precise, she was interested in the bracket behind the TV. I want this. Shang Guandandan pushed the TV into the wall and pulled it out. After trying it a few times, he pointed at the TV wall bracket and shouted to Lu Chang'an. Okay, I'll disassemble it for you right away. Li Hongfang volunteered to open her toolbox. Her tools for installing cameras are also suitable for disassembling this bracket. Both the TV set and the stand belong to the hotel, and Li Hongfang only has the right to use them, but it doesn't cost much to give one to the hotel, but it can make Shang Guandandan happy. Stop it, Lu Chang'an called to Li Hongfang. Why did these people always obey Shang Guandandan's words? He was more obedient than when he faced Lu Chang'an. Shang Guandandan raised his hand and was surprised to find that he had forgotten to bring the thermos, so he had to continue to pull the TV out of the wall and push it back. If you have this, you can watch TV from a more comfortable angle whether you are lying on the bed in the room downstairs or sitting under the electric heating table in the living room upstairs. This thing is sold everywhere. I'll buy one for you in order to get Shang Guandandan to cooperate tonight. Lu Chang'an had to use a TV stand to appease her. Shang Guandandan walked to Lu Chang'an contentedly, held his arm and sat next to him, restoring his elegant and upright posture. The way he loudly asked for things just now might be a bit childish, and he must be forgotten quickly. I recommended Juju's new book The King of Amnesia. I ran away for half my life, but I'm still a teenager when I come back. Can incomplete memory start a new life? If it is not enough, let Neptune help. New book by an old author, quality guaranteed. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 792. Since he was going to catch ghosts today, Lu Chang'an could not help but think of Zi Biu, which he read in the second semester of his senior year of high school when he had something to do. Zi Biu is taken from Zi Biu has strange power and confuses the gods, and Yuan Mei's Zi Biu tells all kinds of ghosts, monsters, and supernatural stories throughout the book. Lu Chang'an glanced at the zombie old lady next to him. She was trying to maintain an upright posture and her eyes were staring straight ahead. Only Lu Chang'an could notice that she was tilting her head to the left and back again in a very small amount. She was in a very bad mood. Happy look. Why are you looking at me? Sensing Lu Chang'an's gaze, Shang Guandandan stopped his little movements and turned his head to look at Lu Chang'an majestically. You have been in the coffin for so long, but you have never come out to scare the scholars who have no money to stay in the cemetery overnight, or crawled out to eat some meat buns, donkey meat on fire, large plates of chicken, etc., and you were treated as a fool by passers-by. Zombies are eating people? Lu Chang'an asked curiously. He has always suspected that the zombie stories in the unofficial history notes might be related to Shang Guandandan. The reason why he thinks this way is related to the fact that he himself has been treated as a zombie. The experience of pretending to be dead, being buried in a coffin, and then crawling out on his own is rare and common, and it often happens in the human world. The origin of zombies is mostly related to the phenomenon of suspended animation, but some people also think that it is bioelectricity, viruses, bacteria, etc. The most well-known zombie creature is the mantis controlled by ironworms. Lu Chang'an has also seen a zombie crab. It can also lure females to mate, but in fact its insides have been completely eaten. What controls its actions is Bidi Sheng. Worms are more resourceful parasites. In ancient times, there were also parasites that only slowly ate the brains of their parasitic targets, then connected to the nervous system of the parasitic target, took over the body, and even had certain intelligence. When they parasitized on pigs, they showed pig-like intelligence and behavioral patterns. The same is true for parasitism on humans. When this kind of parasite takes a human as its host, the host often shows no other symptoms except for frequent headaches in the initial stage. Until the host's brain is completely replaced, no one else can notice it. Pork buns. Shang Guandandan did not answer his question, but muttered to himself, missing the food he often ate. Anyway, Lu Chang'an usually asked her questions to frame her, and Shang Guandandan already knew this. Lu Chang'an stopped asking. He was certain that Shang Guandandan had not been in a deep sleep for more than 2,000 years, otherwise he would not have saved Ye Sijin and allowed her to be reborn as Qin Yanan. he was still interested in knowing under what circumstances Shang Guandandan would wake up and what he would do in his sober state. Brother Lu, if you are interested in zombies, you can go to the provincial museum to see Mrs. Xianzui, Li Hongfang suggested. Xianzui is not a zombie. Lu Chang'an remembered that Li Hongfang once said that Xianzui was also a living coffin. At that time, Lu Chang'an believed it a little, and he also accepted Li Hongfang's statement that Xianzui only had a problem when opening the coffin, and it did not lead to a situation like Shang Guandandan. Now Lu Chang'an is skeptical about Li Hongfang's information, because Li Hongfang likes to add storylines by himself, which is quite nonsense. Who is Xianzui? Shang Guandandan asked curiously. Although Li Hongfang might have meant zombies, Lu Chang'an was obviously very interested in zombies. Maybe he didn't care whether the other person was alive, dead or something else. Biology. An old lady like you. Lu Chang'an looked at Shang Guandandan from head to toe and nodded. She does look like her. I'm not an old lady, Shang Guandandan muttered quietly, a little unbelieving. Did you also force her to sleep? No, Lu Chang'an regretted. Why did he provoke her? Li Hongfang touched her ears. She seemed to be deaf just now and didn't hear anything. She quickly ran to the cloakroom to change equipment. She had already understood a problem. This conversation revealed the news that Lu Chang'an apparently knew the identity of Shang Guandandan in the coffin through Li Hongfang, so he tried to force Shang Guandandan out, and then forced Shang Guan to sleep. Dandan. This is why Shang Guandandan said yet. From this, Li Hongfang also understood a question that had always puzzled her, why Lu Chang'an kicked her in Wang Mang's tomb. Lu Chang'an is also a man, and he is also possessive. He is like Shang Guandandan. Even if he forced it, how could he want to hear himself talking about Lu He and Shang Guandandan's mess? In this way, it was not unfair for her beautiful butt to be kicked. From now on, as long as she vigorously criticizes Lu He, the unruly king, and does not drag Shang Guandandan into it, there will be no danger. Lu Chang'an looked at Li Hongfang's back as he hurriedly walked into the cloakroom. She was quite aware of current affairs. Then why are you like me? Shang Guandandan was still paying attention to this issue, and she became even more unconvinced. Could it be that she is as hard-working, thrifty, smart, and capable as me, and is a queen mother who knows how to live a good life? Lu Chang'an looked at her, and Shang Guandandan frowned. Did he still not realize this after she repeatedly displayed these characteristics of hers? His eyes were filled with confusion, denial, and the incredulity of making such a statement to her. You call this self-cognitive disorder? You, Zhou Dongdong, and Zhou Shuling all have serious self-cognitive disorders. Zhou Dongdong thinks that she is witty and brave, and Zhou Shuling thinks that she is very smart. Oh, and I have to add that Zhu Huntang thinks she is a fairy. Lu Chang'an summed it up and waved his hand. Forget it, just pretend I didn't say anything. She couldn't listen anyway. Nowadays, basically no one can listen to other people's words. Usually, as soon as the other party opens his mouth and finds that his point of view is different from his own, or it makes him unhappy, he will start to fight. This is also the reason why Lu Chang'an often just wants to reason with others, but in the end he has to talk about physics. It's not that he likes to use violence to solve problems. When faced with an unattractive guy, is it wrong to just want to turn him into brittle meat paste? Then why are you like me? Shang Guandandan continued to ask. It's not like that, it's not like that, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Lu Chang'an cupped his hands. Shang Guandandan was like this. If her questions were not answered, she would ask them endlessly. Shang Guandandan raised his hand and touched Lu Chang'an's shoulder lovingly. Since he knew his mistake and corrected it, that's fine. Lu Chang'an remembered his last experience at the Xiongnan Provincial Museum, where he met Zhang Xingliang and took him to see the so-called museum warehouse. He claimed that all the museum exhibits were replicas and that most of the originals were in the warehouse. Of course, Lu Chang'an knew that most of the items on display in the museum were genuine, and replicas would be marked as replicas when they were on display. The warehouses were filled with replicas made for various needs. Sometimes the originals are taken out by research units for study and sent to brother museums for exchange and exhibition, or for regular maintenance inspections, etc. And when the exhibition cannot be delayed, replicas are put on stage. Ordinary viewers cannot tell the difference between replicas and genuine products. Those who can truly make replicas perfect are, of course, units that own genuine products. Copies without comparison with the original are just fake in the eyes of experts. Lu Chang'an still wanted to take a look, but this time he wanted to take Guandandan with him. Mrsxianzui was completely unrecognizable now, so there was no problem in scaring Shang Guandandan. At this time, Li Hongfang came out after changing into her combat uniform, but she still wore a short skirt on her lower body and a jacket on her upper body. The combat uniform was revealed on her legs. Most people would just think they were pants made of some special material. What is striking is that Li Hongfang has a flag on his back with the 6 characters Zhu Fenglai Sword Gate written on it. The reason why Lu Chang'an could see these 6 characters was because the flag was fluttering in the wind. Li Hongfang held a hairdryer and blew the flag, fluttering in the wind, revealing the name Zhu Fenglai Sword Sect. Brother Lu, look at, if there is another situation like today, I will stand behind you with this flag and let them know where we are. As soon as you take action, I will wave the flag and shout, Li Hongfang wanted to do it for you. Add your own points. In addition to improving her clothing, Li Hongfang believed that her sincere display of enthusiasm would also impress Lu Chang'an and allow her to become an official member of the Kyushu Fenglai Sword Sect as soon as possible. In terms of support, you are really a genius. Lu Chang'an nodded with satisfaction. Lu Chang'an does not think this is flattery. This does not fall into the category of flattery. Flattery generally refers to flattery and exaggerated praise. However, many of Li Hongfang's views on Lu Chang'an are basically pragmatic statements, right? Think about it, Zhu Huntang, as the most junior member of the sect, never waved and shouted for Lu Chang'an. Only when Guan Yuan came to trouble for the first time, she said that she would wave and shout for Lu Chang'an. She also said that she would shout for Lu Chang'an only if Lu Chang'an won. She is invincible in the world and dominates the world. If she loses, she will surrender immediately and beg for mercy. It's completely Xingzhou sex style. Seeing that Lu Chang'an was satisfied, Li Hongfang couldn't help but smile happily, and then found Shang Guandandan looking up at the big characters on the flag, so he asked, what position does the Queen Mother hold in this sect? She didn't join. Lu Chang'an had sincerely invited Shang Guandandan, but Shang Guandandan insisted on being the godmother and had to condition Lu Chang'an to give her the electric heating table. Li Hongfang was a little surprised. It turned out that joining the Zhu Fenglai Sword Sect was really not an easy task, or there might be some special conditions and requirements. I'm thirsty. Shang Guandandan forgot to bring his own thermos bottle and hadn't drank water for a long time. He walked to the water bar by himself, picked up a bottle of orange juice and looked at it, then put it back, picked up the largest bottle, the most beautiful bottle of champagne in my arms. Li Hongfang helped her open it and brought a goblet over, but Shang Guandandan refused and started drinking it while holding a bottle of champagne. I want to drink this from now on. Shang Guandandan looked at Lu Chang'an and said loudly, I want to fill my owl. The market price of this 750 ml champagne is around 500. Your thermos has a capacity of 5 liters, and it takes nearly 7 bottles to fill it. Your daily pocket money is only 60 yuan. Lu Chang'an told Shang Guandandan a cruel reality. It's really unbelievable that a person who has struggled to buy an electric car and only succeeded with a large amount of lucky money sponsorship actually has to fill a 5L thermos flask with expensive champagne to drink. I want to drink this, Shang Guandandan frowned. She had no intention of calculating the numbers. Lu Chang'an said. She just put forward her own request. It would be best if someone could satisfy her. If she is not willing to satisfy her, then why are you talking this nonsense? I will place an order for you now and have it delivered to your house tomorrow. Although Shang Guandandan was not a powerful figure in Zhu Fenglai Jianmen, Li Hongfang was a discerning person and would not be too powerful or realistic. He immediately showed his your own hospitality. Even if a child comes to the house and wants something to eat or drink, the host will provide it without any trouble. Shang Guandandan nodded with satisfaction, and sat back next to Lu Chang'an with the champagne bottle in his arms, restoring his elegant and upright posture. The way he loudly asked for things just now may be a bit childish, and he must let others forget about it quickly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 793. In Building 1 of Bailong Center on the other side. Zhu Huntang was sitting on a rocking chair decorated with pure white wings and colorful glass. He held a ball of pomegranate pulp that looked like fiery amber in his hand and ate it one by one while watching the cartoons playing on the TV wall. Bai Hui took a shower, dried her hair, and came to find Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang's hair drying was very magical, with almost no noise and a gentle wind. After blow drying, her hair was silky smooth and full of fall, as if it had been permed. Today is the first time that Zhu Huntang has left Bai Hui to spend the night with her. Zhu Huntang's reason is that he has not slept with a nasty Danai woman for a long time. Although Bai Hui is not as shocking as Qin Yanan, he can still satisfy Zhu Huntang fully. What a childish style, pleasant goat series. Bai Hui touched her hair and glanced at the cartoon Zhu Huntang was watching. Not to mention the type and story, the sheep running around the screen made people feel extremely childish. Considering that Zhu Huntang often bleats, it is normal for her to watch such cartoons. No. Zhongqing told me that some companies, corporate laboratories, and studios want to apply for budgets and let me know what they do. But think about it, they are involved in too many industries. Even if it's impossible to be an expert in any industry, right? Zhu Huntang glanced at Bai Hui and couldn't help but laugh. Even though he had enjoyed Qin Yanan, when he saw Bai Hui wearing only thin pajamas, he felt, amazing, that bad old man must have been ready to move. But when I wanted to help him get the little white pig, he always refused hypocritically, and even threw the kind-hearted beam into the swimming pool, which was disgusting. What does this have to do with the cartoon you watched? 1, 2, a lot of sheep. Bai Hui walked over in a daze, because Zhu Huntang asked Bai Hui to come over and watch cartoons with her after taking a bath. How could I have imagined that he is such a childish type? As the master of two-dimensional house dance up, Bai Hui usually follows the show, such as the recently popular Miss Kagai Wants Me to Lick My Feet and the like. Bai Hui is more emotionally involved in these cartoons about youthful campus love affairs, while Zhu Huntang probably feels like a sheep when watching these cartoons. Of course it does matter. Who can understand the reports they wrote? But I also have to know what they are doing. So I ask those who want to invest and budget to use cartoons to illustrate the work they are doing. Express it in a way. Zhu Huntang pointed to the cartoon and said with emotion, I didn't expect that I would also become a social animal. What do you call a social animal? So are there people in this world who are not animals? Bai Hui clicked her tongue and lamented Zhu Huntang's corruption. Zhu Huntang's behavior cannot simply be called a corrupt bourgeoisie. The protagonist of this cartoon is a male fairy sheep. Its name is Sheep Chang'an. It lives in a country composed of various industries of the Zhu family. Through various plots, it introduces those experimental research and development projects. For example, Yang Chang'an just got a set of exoskeleton armor. It feels a bit backward, just like what the Indians do. It's a bunch of rubbish and a waste of my money. After Zhu Huntang finished speaking, he picked up the tablet next to him and marked it. Then keep watching. Shouldn't it be evaluated by professionals? Do you know that they are lagging behind just by watching cartoons? Bai Hui is a little worried. If Zhu Huntang kills this project, won't it be in vain for others? They have put in a lot of effort, and they might even lose their jobs. Appearance is equal to combat effectiveness. If you think about it carefully, do high-tech products, the higher the technological content of the product, be more futuristic and have a stronger sense of design? This is true for battleships, fighter jets, bombers, air conditioners, washing machines, refrigerators, and televisions. It does what it does like a cannon. If I give it another penny, I'll be considered stupid. Zhu Huntang snorted and waved to Bai Hui to sit with her and watch. Bai Hui also sat on Zhu Huntang's rocking chair with a pair of wings. After listening to what Zhu Huntang said, she also wanted to see what this cartoon said. As he watched, Bai Hui began to concentrate. He had always had a vague impression that the Zhu family was rich. It was like standing on the beach and looking at the sea. The field of vision was only so big, and the sea was only so big. But now it was like when I arrived at the space station, my field of vision became wider, and I realized that the little bit of sea I saw was just an insignificant corner of the ocean. After a while, Zhu Huntang turned off the cartoon. He was tired from working for too long. There seemed to be two projects that were the same just now. Bai Hui was still interested and wanted to discuss it with Zhu Huntang. That's the same rare disease research project, and two groups of people are working on it. Zhu Huntang flipped through the tablet to learn more. In fact, after watching the cartoon, he mainly had an impression. When he looked through the information again, he would not be so impressed. In the clouds and fog. Why do two groups of people do it together? Isn't this duplication of research? The cost has doubled. Bai Hui asked, confused. This is internal competition. Whoever completes the project first or does it better will adopt it. As for doubling the cost, it doesn't matter. Of course, these costs will eventually be passed on to the users. Zhu Huntang looked at the information. Then he said, there is currently no effective drug for this kind of rare disease. After we invent it, the price will be about 500,000 yuan per injection. What? Bai Hui was stunned. 55.5 million, is that Taiwan dollars? Even if it's Taiwan dollars, it's too high. Who can afford it? RMB, Zhu Huntang saw Bai Hui's stuttering look very cute, and rubbed Bai Hui's face. There is no way, this is a rare disease, not many people get the disease, and there are few people using it, so the price is high. But we have never thought about making money directly from these rare disease patients, because not many people can afford it. We just need to let our lobbying companies take action and let some countries approve the inclusion of such rare disease drugs in medical insurance and purchase them by the state. That's it. By then, patients will basically be able to afford the medicine. Is this a capitalist? Bai Hui came to his senses and couldn't help but look at Zhu Huntang again. He felt that ordinary people like himself were the real little white sheep in front of big capitalists like Zhu Huntang. The social animal time is over, let's go play and go to bed. Zhu Huntang took Bai Hui's hand and walked towards the bedroom. It seems I don't know you well enough, Bai Hui said with enlightenment. You don't feel like a BAA today. Being a bleat is a lovely attitude towards life, being a black-hearted capitalist is just a job, the two are inseparable. The difference between Jing and Wei is clear. Jing and Wei are distinct. Zhu Huntang nodded, indicating that this was the idiom he was talking about. But it seems that this word is not very appropriate. It doesn't matter. Lu Chang'an didn't come to see you dance today. You must be very sad. No. Yes, I danced very seriously today, didn't you notice? When Lu Chang'an was around, I had to worry about him laughing at me if I couldn't dance well. It's just a good thing that he's not around, Bai Hui quickly explained clearly. Bai Hui just felt that she had agreed at the beginning that she would teach everyone how to dance, and he should be there too, simply talking to him didn't count. The fact is that Bai Hui felt much more relaxed when he was away. Everyone knows how picky he is and a person who likes to ridicule. No one wants to have such a person staring at them, right? It's best not to come tomorrow or in the future. By the way, if you ask the protagonist of the cartoon to be named Yang Chang'an, he will definitely beat you up if he finds out Bai Hui admired Lu Chang'an just a little bit. She felt that the capitalist lady who was like a fairy in the clouds was still beaten by Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an seems to dare to hit anyone. Bai Hui has never seen anyone Lu Chang'an dare not hit. I wonder if Lu Chang'an will hit Shang Guandandan. I'm not afraid of him. Zhu Huntang suddenly became arrogant. I have already thought of a way to deal with him, which will definitely make him stunned. I think you will be dumbfounded. Bai Hui didn't believe it at all. Zhu Huntang always felt confident before provoking Lu Chang'an, but the result was without exception crying. Then she won't learn her lesson, and wait until the next time she comes up with a trick, and then she will start to feel confident again. Zhu Huntang also quietly told Bai Hui that her sheepdoll suit once successfully attacked Lu Chang'an, causing him to fall to the ground and convulse. Bai Hui was very suspicious that Zhu Huntang was trying to save face by tampering with the facts. What was really convulsing on the ground was Zhu Huntang herself. I successfully plotted against him today. Zhu Huntang was proud, and then looked at Bai Hui a little warily. If you don't leak the secret, I will tell you how I plotted against him. Bai Hui hesitated for a moment and waved his hand in disbelief. You, don't tell me, later, Lu Chang'an might find out from me inexplicably. Bai Hui actually wants to know, but what if Lu Chang'an knows hypnosis and makes Bai Hui say it without knowing it, and then Lu Chang'an goes to beat Zhu Huntang, and Zhu Huntang will know that Bai Hui leaked the secret. Bai Hui still cares about Zhu Huntang as a friend and doesn't want to betray her, and Bai Hui doesn't want Lu Chang'an to have the opportunity to fight Zhu Huntang. She always feels that the fight between Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang is some kind of wonderful intimacy, for example what S and what M and stuff like that. Zhu Huntang felt a little uncomfortable. He obviously plotted against Lu Chang'an very cleverly, but he couldn't tell others about this kind of thing. He always felt itchy in his heart, buzzing in his head, and smacked his lips, just wanting to say something. By the way, you can tell Qinyanan that today Qinyanan told Zhu Huntang about Lu Chang'an's drumming. Thinking about this, Zhu Huntang took out his mobile phone and sent a message to Qinyanan. Bai Hui only saw Qinyanan's name and stopped peeking. This female teacher, inexplicably made people feel as unpleasant as in Nuan. In Li Hongfang's room. Li Hongfang remembered that one time when she went to find Lu Chang'an, she saw the big thermos flask that Shang Guandandan was holding. It was super big. Mineral water in supermarkets is generally 500 ml, mostly 1250 ml, and the largest size is usually 4L or 4.5L. The largest bottles of household cooking oil in the grain and oil section are 5L. Shang Guandandan's thermos was just that big, not as thick as those cooking oil bottles, and longer. She carried this thing with her all day long. Li Hongfang didn't calculate how many bottles of champagne she needed to buy for Shang Guandandan. She just found a store and bought all the stocks on the shelves. She also thoughtfully bought several flavors. The store owner noticed such a large order and sent Li Hongfang messages to confirm. Li Hongfang responded and took care of it. Shang Guandandan was drinking champagne and watching TV with squinted eyes. After a while, the time was almost up. The three of them came to the hotel parking lot, and Li Hongfang drove to the factory address. There was too much moisture in the air, not only because it was close to the river, but more likely because of the rain and snow that would fall tomorrow. Lu Chang'an sniffed and felt moist. His sleeves were pulled, and Lu Chang'an turned around to look. Shang Guandandan, who was still holding the champagne bottle, was trying his best to look at him with his eyes wide open. Then he narrowed his eyes and shook his head. Usually, If there is no TV to watch at this time, Shang Guandandan usually goes to bed. Although she has repeatedly claimed that she can sleep when she wants, she can't stay up late, except when she has a novel she particularly likes to read. Lu Chang'an had no choice but to throw Shang Guandandan on his back. The champagne bottle in her hand fell to the ground. She had drank it all in the room. She just hugged something habitually, and now she wanted to hug Lu Chang'an with both hands. Of course, the neck and the wine bottle are not needed. Lu Chang'an felt that he was a bit unlucky and did not consider that she would be confused. It seemed that he would not be able to observe the collision between the mysterious creature named Shang Guandandan and other mysterious creatures tonight. If you don't meet the red and white clothes tonight, then your trip will be in vain. Li Hongfang carefully inoculated herself first, lest Lu Chang'an did not see any evil spirits and directly turned her into a monster. Far and near there were only scattered sounds of cars passing by, the sky was grey and shrouded over the lights on the other side, the river was flowing quietly, a few lights on Orange Island were faintly visible, and the night ferry sounded its last whistle. The whistle blew, and Lu Chang'an's gaze retracted from a distance and fell on the trees surrounding the factory. These trees looked taller and more lush at night than during the day. I met those 4 poisonous beasts during the day, which delayed everything. Lu Chang'an dragged Shang Guandandan with his hands behind his back and looked up at the trees. Should we find a place to stay first? Li Hongfang said in a low voice. She had taken off her coat and skirt, only wearing a combat uniform. She even wrapped her entire head and hid her eyes behind night vision lenses. The whole person looks like the man in black from the Bleach Elementary School cartoon series, a little darker. The battle flag of the Zhu Fenglai sword sect has not been forgotten. The flagpole can be retracted and wrapped with a flag and pinned to the waist, so that it can be taken out in time for the sect owner to wave the flag and shout. No, if those red and white clothes you mentioned are coming, I can feel it. Lu Chang'an said affirmatively. The sect master is very powerful, Li Hongfang said with admiration, and praised Lu Chang'an so that Lu Chang'an could continue. How did the sect master feel it? Didn't you find that the trees near the factory, especially the trees with crowns exceeding the roof, are particularly lush and full of vitality? Lu Chang'an thought of his own sycamore tree, but the sycamore tree in front of his door had returned to its original state and no longer looked like the original one. Afraid of being noticed by others, it is so dense and tall that it is in an abnormal state. Is it related to the red and white clothes? Li Hongfang felt a little strange. The white and red clothes should be ghosts and evil spirits. How could such things make the trees more prosperous and dense? Wouldn't it make the tree look like dead branches? Li Hongfang's childhood shadow has a similar scene. The grandmother in The Ghost of the Lover gave Li Hongfang the impression of an old tree spirit that has lost its vitality. These trees have received overflowing essence. Do you know what essence is? Lu Chang'an did not directly answer Li Hongfang's question. It's not bad to chat with Li Hongfang, as long as she doesn't take the initiative to talk about her ideas. When Miss Su was treating me, I heard her talk about related concepts. It seems that it can be understood as a super nutrient element that can repair various damages on the living body. Li Hongfang didn't know much, but what Su Nangxiu said at that time, it seemed that the scientific community's research on this nutritional element was completely conducted in secret, and most heads of state in developed countries were unaware of it. She will still tell you this. Lu Chang'an was a little surprised, but she hasn't studied it herself. Jingyuan is a super energy that has not been truly discovered and defined. It is not just as simple as repairing damage. You see, look at these trees, it's because they received the overflowing essence, a very, very small amount, that they started to grow suddenly. Spring is here, it's the season to spread the essence, allowing all things to revive, stir, and sprout. Then there are residual essences in these trees, right? Li Hongfang stared at a few trees, ready to move. How about I chop them down and bring them back to make Chinese medicine, or use them to make soup? Your idea is very good, Lu Chang'an praised him. He did not try to stop her because her idea was right. If she cut it back to make soup and make medicine, she would be able to obtain some essence, even if the actual amount was not enough for him. If you smell that he absorbs a lot from his breath, that's for sure. It is something that is almost nothing, but it is not equal to nothing. I suspect that the red and white clothes you saw, as well as the ghostly intercourse you mentioned, are actually one of them is a super life form, infusing essence into another life form of a lower level. Lu Chang'an combined with Li Hongfang's information and draw conclusions. He was not entirely sure, after all, the source of the information was Li Hongfang. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 794. Li Hongfang was staring at the trees and thinking about how much essence could be squeezed out and how valuable it was. When she heard Lu Chang'an's words, she couldn't help but be surprised. What is a super life? Can super life infuse other life forms with essence? Does the infusion here refer to the dual cultivation that is common in martial arts and immortality stories? That means that essence is actually those things. Why is it called infusion? Is it because of the large amount? How big is it? Like opening a faucet? Or like opening a dam to release floods? Li Hongfang immediately realized it excitedly. Lu Chang'an frowned. This Li Hongfang couldn't be more elegant, reserved, and well-educated like him. What kind of faucet or dam opens? It has to be the Dragon King. The Dragon King sprays water to be described like this. Ordinary super beings are only equivalent to ordinary creatures. With the word super added, how can they pour out their essence like this? Just like Lu Chang'an saw a dragon in Antarctica not long ago that condensed the vitality of living creatures in Antarctica and the surrounding seas. If the sea water contained in it poured down, the essence would be mixed in the water like a dam releasing water. Wait, Lu Chang'an seems to have never paid attention to a problem. Changing his body shape like that will inevitably spill a small amount of the essence accumulated in his long life into the sea water. No need to care. Since I had never cared about it before, there was no need to pay attention to it now that I thought about it. Lu Chang'an quickly changed his mind. You can understand super beings as particularly nutritious ingredients, which can be used to stew soup or medicine like these trees, and take great tonic. Lu Chang'an explained briefly. In short, this is the most vivid way of saying it. After all, in Lu Chang'an's view, it is a bit reluctant to say that super life forms are super powerful life forms, and they are only that strong. At present, Lu Chang'an is reluctantly willing to admit that he has a very strong super being, and that is the girl holding the pot behind him. In fact, I am not very sure that Shang Guandandan is really strong. It is better to say that he is too mysterious. Facing the unknown, Lu Chang'an's human heart instinctively maintains a cautious attitude like ordinary people. If a fight really breaks out, Lu Chang'an can't be afraid of Shang Guandandan. As long as he doesn't give her pocket money, she will cry loudly and get into a coffin to shut herself up. Sect Master, then we have to capture the red and white clothes. They can be used as food for the sect to raise the strength of everyone in the section. Li Hongfang lowered his voice and looked at Lu Chang'an with a smile on his face. Back then, Monk Tang went to Nepal to learn Buddhist scriptures. On the way, he encountered a little monster who wanted to eat Monk Tang's flesh. The little monster went back and reported it to the old monster just like you. His tone and expression were exactly the same. Lu Chang'an reminded Li Hongfang to pay attention to his expression management, and he just told her today that he wanted to eat his flesh. Improve image and temperament. Li Hongfang covered her mouth and coughed, then quickly changed the subject. Master, you are talking as if you were accompanying Monk Tang to obtain scriptures. In short, you don't have to worry too much about the super life form that may appear tonight. Jingyuan and Jingyuan cannot be generalized. There are differences in level and quality. There is no other in our section. Jingyuan is full. Lu Chang'an waved his hand. Back then, the Zhuzhu Fenglai sword sect had so many disciples, who wouldn't be full of them? It's just that there is a limit to what ordinary people can absorb. It doesn't mean that the more you get, the unlimited stack of benefits you get. Even in modern times, Sume and Mrs. Karnstein did not obtain immortality because they absorbed enough essence. The main reason was that they met Tesla and Tesla's Rodinia. Continental civilization. Yesigen was found by Shangguan Dandan. Lu Chang'an used to think that Yesigen was reborn as Qinyanan because Shangguan Dandan had the same eternal cabinet as Tesla. Now that he thinks about it, it may also have something to do with Shangguan Dandan himself. After all, Shangguan Dandan may be a little firebird, and creatures like the little firebird are somewhat related to legends such as rebirth. Li Hongfang understood what Lu Chang'an meant. It seemed that Lu Chang'an in red and white had already arranged their fate tonight. They were not used to make soup or medicine for Li Hongfang. It seems that his first goal is to actively become the official disciple of Zhou Fenglai sword sect, and there is no need to think too much about anything else for the time being. I got it. Master Li Hongfang was full of energy, taking off the flag from her waist, raising it, shaking it, and waving it. Lu Chang'an nodded, then bent down to pick up the champagne bottle that Shangguan Dandan had just dropped on the ground, and threw it into a trash can far away. Master, if this is a hidden weapon, you can say that it is 100% accurate within 100 meters. It's the same as Xiao Li's flying knife. It's a good example. Li Hongfang saw the master's display of skill and quickly continued to wave the flag in admiration. As long as a person has a goal, his energy will often rise to a higher level. This is why many people are always full of energy when they see those people who like to flatter people in movies and TV series, because they are all people with goals and motivation. Otherwise, why would there be such a positive attitude? Don't compare me with a cuckold. Li Sunhuan is too strange. I'm a normal person. Lu Chang'an felt that most readers of The Passionate Swordsman and The Ruthless Sword would not be able to behave like Li Sunhuan. No, so Lu Chang'an equals normal person. Is Li Sunhuan a cuckold? Li Hongfang didn't remember, but he was deeply impressed by the fact that a fei was a liquor. He felt that his admiration for the sect master was not expressed properly, so he quickly added, "Sister, your social ethics are also very high. When I'm in this situation, I usually don't remember to throw the bottle in the trash. When it comes to quality, the overall quality of Chinese people should be one of the best in the world." Lu Chang'an thought for a while and added, "Comprehensive quality includes education, public morality, sense of responsibility and other aspects." Is it to this extent? Li Hongfang was a little confused. Although he had never felt sorry for himself because of his ethnicity and country, and felt angrily that his skin color and yellow genes made him inferior, he did not think highly of himself like Lu Chang'an. Compatriots. This is a very interesting thing. We have to admit that public intellectuals have influenced almost all Chinese people in the past 20 or 30 years. Lu Chang'an was idle, paying attention to the movements around him, while chatting with Li Hongfang. They have constructed perfect images of foreigners that exude light like gods. In the face of these touching and yearning images, many Chinese people feel ashamed and cowardly. That's true. I still remember a lot of stories about the glorious image of foreigners fabricated by the public, such as Japanese summer camps, German oil paper bags, and nationwide power outages in the United States to save birds. Li Hongfang nodded. Thinking about it again, I find it funny, especially the Japanese summer camp, which portrays Japanese children so well. So where did the Heisei abandoned house come from? But people in our country often know their shame and then become brave. When most people know that they have shortcomings, they will actively learn from the excellence of others. There are public intellectuals who create perfect foreigners who are full of brilliance. The social image is there, so Chinese people study with such a goal, strive to get closer, improve themselves, and demand themselves. Li Hongfang waved the flag and his eyes widened. He had never thought of this point of view before. As expected of the sect leader, Chinese people ask themselves with such a goal to improve the overall quality of the entire nation. In fact, the overall quality of foreigners is it's not that high at all. When the Chinese people's horizons broaden and the public intellectuals can no longer control the dissemination of information in one direction, we compare it with the whole world and find that the overall quality of foreigners is really low. The perfect image fabricated by the public intellectuals is different from theirs. It has nothing to do with it, but we have become the best because we hold ourselves to extremely high standards. One of the best, Lu Chang'an added. Maybe his vision was narrow, and he didn't see any other outstanding nations that completely overwhelmed the Chinese nation. He added one to be more modest. In fact, it doesn't matter if you add one or not. Anyway, no matter how humble you are, some people will feel that they cannot give any praise to the people of the country. It is more uncomfortable to admit that their compatriots are excellent than to kill them. I'm laughing so hard. He's obviously a strange beast, but he thinks he's a human and talks nonsense. Who? Li Hongfang turned around angrily when he heard this. A young man, wrapped in a red skirt and a large red scarf on his upper body, appeared eerily under the shadow of a tree not far away and walked over slowly. The young man is tall, has long legs, and is slightly lean. His hands hang at his sides. He looks a little longer than normal, but he is not in the state where Liu Bei's hands are above his knees. Li Hongfang found that his eyes were also very strange. They bulged as if the big eye special effects were turned on to the highest level, making people worry that his eyeballs would fall out of their sockets. What's even more worrying is that at such a young age, the top of his head is already bald, with only a ring of spike-like hair growing around his head. In a flash of thought, Li Hongfang came to his senses. Could it be that this guy was the red-clothed evil spirit that he and Lu Chang'an were looking for, the super being that Lu Chang'an was talking about? This is a bit too ugly. In Li Hongfang's mind, the super being, even if it is ugly, should be as ugly as the grandma in a Chinese ghost story, domineering and attractive. The guy in front of me is simply ugly. If he were an ordinary human being, he would probably have to wait for the country to assign him a target. Water monkey, Lu Chang'an said to Li Hongfang. Li Hongfang probably didn't know much, so he explained. Li Deyuan wrote in Shui Jingzhu, there are things in the water, like a 3 or 4-year-old child, with scales like carp, shooting it is inaccessible. In the middle of July and August, it is good to expose yourself on the moraine. The knees are like tigers, and the palms and claws are often submerged in the water and come out of the knees. Children do not know that if they want to take and play with them, they will kill people. Or it may be said that if a person is born with something, he will pick it off. If he is disgusted, he can be treated in a small way. It turned out to be a water monkey, and Li Hongfang had heard a lot of rumors about water monkeys. In fact, there are various records and legends about water monkeys all over the country, including the entire East Asian cultural circle. Japan's famous kappa is also an imported product, and its source is naturally the Chinese water monkey. In many places, in order to deter children from playing in deep ponds, they will say that there are water monkeys in those places. Some people who know how to swim still drown, and there is a saying that they were dragged to the bottom by the water monkeys and drowned. Li Hongfang remembers an incident when she was a child. When she was playing at her grandmother's house, she was repeatedly frightened by the legend of the water monkey. When I was a child, I heard these stories told by my elders. Even if I don't remember them clearly, I always felt very scary. They are also a kind of childhood shadow. They often continue until I grow up. Knowing the absurdity of those stories, I still have shadows and have inexplicable feelings about some things. Resistance. When I was a kid, I didn't believe in water monkeys. Later, I was playing by the river with a cousin of mine. My cousin said he wanted to catch crucian carp in the river. I said, "Are you not afraid of water monkeys dragging your feet?" My cousin also said this. There are no water monkeys in shallow water, so as soon as he entered the water, I saw a dark shadow swimming into the water behind him, and I screamed. My cousin looked back, and a pair of hairy hands grabbed his feet. My cousin was startled and wanted to run to the shore, but water monkeys are not very strong in the water. Infinite. He was immediately dragged down by the water monkey. I hurriedly ran over and held my cousin's hand. My cousin held onto me for dear life. I felt that I had no hope of resisting the strength of the water monkey, so I quickly kicked my cousin, but my cousin refused to let go. I had no choice but to stab the water monkey's arm with a pencil sharpener, and then the water monkey let go, and my cousin and I took the opportunity to escape to the shore. After saying that, Li Hongfang looked at Lu Chang'an with lingering fear. Lu Chang'an also looked at Li Hongfang calmly. "Where did you start making it up?" Lu Chang'an already knew Li Hongfang relatively well. I can only believe a little bit of the story she told. It was basically the same thing, but it would be completely different when it came out of her mouth. It's all true. In fact, there is such a thing, it is other people's personal experience. Li Hongfang hesitated and pointed to the water monkey in front of him. "Maybe it's this one. Do you know that death is imminent?" The young man in red, who Lu Chang'an called the water monkey, couldn't help feeling a little angry when he saw that Lu Chang'an and Li Hongfang didn't seem to take him seriously at all. In particular, this young man who misunderstood his identity clearly exuded a weak aura, similar to that of the person he had injected with essence, but he acted as if he didn't take the young man in red to heart at all. That gesture seemed a bit disappointed, meaning, "Oh, it turns out to be just a water monkey." Lu Chang'an turned to look at the water monkey. Li Hongfang was a little brave. He even took 2 steps closer to the water monkey to take a closer look. It was indeed a bit ugly. For such a super life, even if she had the essence that Li Hongfang hoped to get, she would not be able to get it. Be willing to be infused. Li Hongfang hoped to see a super being who could accept the essence of his infusion, at least with a beautiful ass and face like Brother Lu. "I'm not a water monkey, I'm a Wuzhikai," the young man in red said angrily. Li Hongfang unexpectedly looked at the young man in red again. "Wuzhiqi, that is even more famous. In the mythical age, he is as famous as the Dragon King, Yinglong, and others. His great power of being good at water is also one of the prototypes of Sun Wukong. Even in games, such as Shendugang Krypton Record, Manbao Wuzhiqi is very powerful and is one of the most popular divine cards in the server. If you are Wuzhiqi, I am Deu, and I will accept you today." Lu Chang'an laughed, really putting gold on his face. It turned out that it was not Wuzhikai. Li Hongfang was a little disappointed, so he pushed back a few steps. Thinking about it, how could Wuzhikai be so ugly? Even if he is ugly, he must be handsome and ugly, not like the sharp-mouthed, monkey-cheeked person in front of him, and his body proportions are out of proportion. "Don't think that I will let you go if you are a resurrected god. I am Wuzhikai." After saying this, the red skirt of the young man in red was pushed up higher, and he pulled up the hem of the skirt. He pulled out a long stick over 1 meter long. He held the long stick and swung it. The head of the stick shook a few times in the wind. Then it suddenly expanded and the long stick became more than 2 meters long. The head of the stick was pointed directly at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an and Wuzhikai are actually not familiar with each other. It may be due to certain encounters in the mythical era, such as the memory loss caused by physical damage after dying together with a meteorite. It is now very difficult for Lu Chang'an to dig out the buried memories. He didn't even remember what strange beasts like Wuzhiqi looked like, but he was certain that the one in front of him was indeed not Wuzhiqi. It was too weak. "You are not me, nor are you Wuzhikai. The cow I rode out of Hang Pass in the west was more powerful than you." Speaking of his cow, it has a great background. It was a sacred cow, and it was definitely not what people think. How could an ordinary green bull carry me out of Hang Pass on its back? This sacred bull had strong legs. After carrying me out of Hang Pass, it went all the way west, first to Xianyang, then to Lanzhou, and finally entering the boundary of the western region and entering the no man's land of Hohzil. Some cows in Hohzil still retain the blood of sacred cows, and some have even spread to India. Because they are of sacred cow blood, cow urine, and the Royal Society. The young man in red was inexplicably irritated as he listened to Lu Chang'an's ramblings. This alien beast was extremely weak and was not qualified to be classified as a god. It was better to get rid of him directly. The weak did not deserve to survive, and they would only be used as food after being revived. So he held the long stick and jumped up high. The shadows of the trees behind him seemed to sway a little, but the sound of the wind around him was silent. The moon above his head, which had just glimpsed the earth through the thin clouds, created a wave of pain under him. A shadow far taller and more powerful appeared. The young man in red saw his own shadow out of the corner of his eye, and felt that this was his true heroic appearance. The corner of his mouth raised a deep hook, and the long stick suddenly accelerated and fell. A strand of hair seemed to be forced to fly by the momentum of his long stick, and instantly entangled the long stick of the young man in red. The soft hair and the hard long stick seemed to prove the principle of overcoming strength with softness. The moment he got entangled, the young man in red felt as if his stick had been smashed into the sticky mud, and the strength disappeared instantly. Then it is difficult to exert force. What's going on? The young man in red was slightly wary. Could it be that the other party was hiding his strength? No, this hair comes from the woman the other person is carrying. Lu Chang'an looked back and realized that when Shang Guanduntan was sleeping, her hair would automatically protect her, so he quickly let go of the hand entrusting Shang Guandandan's butt. Shang Guandandan did not fall to the ground because of this. Her hair was entangled with the stick, and her body seemed to be suspended in the air. She still didn't wake up. The moonlight disappeared into the clouds again, but Shang Guandandan's hair was like the moonlight that the moon had forgotten to take back, still flowing in front of the three people. A piece of black moonlight instantly drifted away and wrapped around the body of the young man in red. Wait, Lu Chang'an shouted. He did have the purpose of observing Shang Guandandan tonight to see if she would behave like she did when she absorbed the essence and blood of the living dead when facing super beings. The other party eats it. But he also wanted to ask what the alien beasts and gods mentioned by the young man in red meant. How did the young man in red appear in the modern world? Was he resurrected? Or a clone? Or maybe it's for some other reason. It was too late, he shouted. Shang Guandandan's eyelashes fluttered slightly, but her hair had already started to eat. The young man in red still maintained the same expression as when he just hit the person. He didn't even have time to change his expression, and he didn't even utter an exclamation. In an instant, all his flesh and blood disappeared, leaving only a pile of bones. Shang Guandandan also fell from the air, and Lu Chang'an caught her very gently and considerately, so that she would not wake up in pain and her hair might get messy uncontrollably. Shang Guandandan opened his eyes in Lu Chang'an's arms, took a look and found that it was Lu Chang'an, then closed his eyes and continued to sleep on his own. Door master, brother Lu, what's going on? Li Hongfang covered her lower abdomen, her legs were shaking. She could feel the dampness in her combat clothes. Not only was she sweating, but she couldn't bear it anymore. Live incontinence. Of course, it was not only the scene before her that frightened her like this, but also the fact that she had also been tangled in Shang Guandandan's hair. Thinking about it, I really wasn't scared enough at that time, and I didn't realize how terrifying Shang Guandandan's hair was. Although I have seen Lu Chang'an's methods of dealing with people after killing them, they are still understandable physical methods. What Shang Guandandan did was completely beyond Li Hongfang's expectations. The living people instantly turned into bones, without leaving any flesh and blood. This is what kind of black magic, sorcery, or something like that? I don't know, maybe it's just a way of eating. There are countless creatures in nature that use root tentacles to absorb nutrients, so just think of her hair as a rare kind of tentacle, although he and himself wanted to be careful. The original intention of observing and discovering some important information was different, but Lu Chang'an was still quite satisfied. After all, he has done experiments for many years, and many times the experiments are repeated over and over again. It is normal for thousands of repeated experiments to still not make any progress. At least it was proven today that Shang Guandandan's hair could not only be actively controlled by her, but could also automatically defend and eat when she fell asleep. Thinking of this, Lu Chang'an looked at Shang Guandandan. At least in appearance, Shang Guandandan had not changed like last time. Maybe the quality of the food she ate this time was not high, or the changes were hidden under her dress, and it was inconvenient for Lu Chang'an to check. Although he checked with a scientific attitude and thinking, Lu Chang'an did not have a mental disorder, but Shang Guandandan would not think so. After she woke up, she shouted Qinjian and so on. How embarrassing. Never mind. The Queen Mother is so powerful. Back then, the witchcraft disaster in Viang Palace, could it? It's okay if you make up stories for me, Lu Chang'an kindly reminded Li Hongfang. After all, she was already in reserve as his lackey, so he had to protect her. What does the disaster of witchcraft have to do with Shang Guandandan? At that time, she didn't even think about it. Not born. Li Hongfang hurriedly shut up, only thinking that Shang Guandandan, who was beyond the understanding of ordinary people, seemed to have little meaning in talking about her birth and death. But she didn't dare to say more. What if Shang Guandandan was just pretending to sleep? Or if she hears something while sleeping, she will know it when she wakes up?